Okay, it's 4:30, and I would like to call to order the Board of Education meeting tonight. Seeing all current board members present. This meeting is available in English and Spanish. Would the translator please give instructions on translation services?
Good afternoon. Today's meeting will be interpreted via simultaneous interpretation. Once the host has activated the interpretation function, all participants must choose their language of preference by clicking on the globe on the toolbar located in the bottom of the screen and clicking on the language of your choice. Thank you. I will now repeat the instructions in Spanish. Buenas tardes. Esta reunión se interpretará simultáneamente cuando el anfitrión active la función de interpretación. Todos los participantes deben de seleccionar el idioma de preferencia haciendo clic en el icono del globo terráqueo que aparece en la barra de herramientas en la parte inferior de la pantalla y haciendo clic en el idioma en el que gusta escuchar la reunión. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much.
Recording in progress.
Great. So again, seeing all board members are here, we can begin the meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I would like to invite Vice President Shen Brewster to read the Living Land Acknowledgement tonight.
Sunnyvale School District is located on the ancestral and unceded land of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe, who have peacefully honored and cared for this land for thousands of years. We recognize that every member of the Sunnyvale community continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land. We acknowledge our responsibility to learn from the wisdom of the Ohlone people and to consider how we might work to repair injustices and to do more forward together in honorable ways.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to item 2, the approval of the agenda. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak on this item? Please raise your hand in person or use the raised hand feature on Zoom. Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, board, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's vote. All those in favor of tonight's agenda? Please say aye. Chair votes aye, and the motion passes. We are on to item 3, review and action. Item 3A is interviews of executive search firms and selection of firm to conduct executive search. Dr. Gallagher?
Yes, so this is the process, the beginning of the process, the replacement of the superintendent, which is an odd thing for me to be talking about. I think it is. Yeah. Okay. So what we have here is 2 firms, that will be, the board will be interviewing for consideration to conduct or guide the search for the new superintendent of the Sunnyvale School District.
Thank you. Okay, and it looks like we have, well, actually first let me see if there's any public comment on this item. Do we have any cards from the room? No? Okay, if there's anyone online who would like to comment on this item, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, why don't we hear the presentations and then we'll discuss. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone. If we can start the slide deck, that would be super helpful, please. So my name is Dr. Candace Aurora, and this is Vinnie Aurora. We're representing the Aurora Collective as the first search firm. And it is our absolute honor and pleasure to be in your company today. We've part of the process today is to go through a just talking a little bit about our mission and a vision and alignment between our mission and the district's mission. We'd love to go over the search process and approach, discuss the timeline for recruitment with you all, and of course, answer any questions that are burning for you all. And so with that, I wanted to just start off a little bit and introduce myself first, because I think it's so important to get to know who's leading your search and where their heart is for this work. And so with that, as I said, I named Candace, have a doctorate in education, leadership, administration. I lead with that because I'm very humbled to have that. I've had over 20 years of experience in education. I was in the classroom for 10 years, taught English at all grade levels except elementary. I was an elementary school principal, a high school principal, and a middle school principal. My favorite years of teaching were in the middle school. 8th grade especially, and that's where I felt this passion for really diving into social emotional learning, and also really, getting a higher degree in education. So I sought out and got a master's in education, and then eventually a doctorate as I was building up my acumen to go into administration. The focus for my research was social emotional learning, specifically in adults that serve children. And then my research was focused on teachers, administrators, and principals. With a little bit of background on myself, I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 16. So English was a second language. As you can imagine, the acculturation, the culture shock, and not knowing if an immigrant who barely spoke English could make it anywhere in life. It was educators in my life that actually took me under their wings. My high school college counselor, as well as my advisor, who I'm still in touch with, taught me how to fill out a college application, ESL, how to pass a test, how to test out of ESL so I can get into different proper English classes at the SED. And really it was because of them that I chose to go back into education and recycle my success and be that one caring adult. That's actually the title of my dissertation, the one caring adult that could make that difference in a child's life. And so the 20 years of my heart of my work has been in exactly that, to be that one caring adult. And now I get to do that in a much larger capacity as a consultant in providing professional development and coaching for principals and teachers and SEL, as well as other curriculum development areas, leading searches for executive leaders, and then helping to coach and train them. And so it is quite a big circle for me to be here and trying to lead a search for a superintendent. So I'm really honored to be here. Are there any questions about my background before I pass it to Vinnie to share about his? Go ahead.
Can you all hear me okay? Well, yeah, thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you all today. Two things. One, Candace and I are business partners, but we're also married, so just everyone should know that. Sometimes I'll, remember not to put my hand on her shoulder, but just in case, I don't think you know ahead of time. And it's quite the gift to work with my spouse and build this movement around building capacity for districts and nonprofits together. A bit about me, just to understand kind of my background. This work, as you heard from Candace, is very personal to us. I am a child of immigrants who came here from India in the 70s and probably had to plan to be kind of on a trajectory to be middle income Americans. It didn't work out that way. I grew up just a bit north from here on the peninsula in East Palo Alto, Redwood City, San Bruno. And I am the receiver of incredible educational opportunities, incredible teachers, and incredible nonprofits, after school programs, on school sites, library staff, who sort of shepherded me along and helped me not get completely lost. And so I founded the Aurora Collective about 7 years ago because I wanted to reinvest in the communities that raised me. And it's almost like I was a beneficiary, and so it's really important for me to reinvest. And so 7 years ago, when we launched the collective, It was also about doing things a little bit differently. So you're gonna hear from us and kind of our approach, and we're a little bit different than some of the larger search firms you're probably looking at, as esteemed as they are. I want to pause and just also mention that I'm an educator too. The fond roots of actually running youth programs in Sunnyvale, on Arcus and Wolf at the India Community Center. We work with Sunnyvale Community Services as well. And I think one of the challenges and opportunities is the diversity of the city and the incredible sort of history and future you all have, but also the disparities between students and families, and how you continue to bridge that to bring the Sunnyvale Promise forward. And so with that, I think I'll pass it back to Candace to bring you into our team, and then we'll go into our approach and who we've worked with, and how our search process is a little bit different, and then leave it open to you for questions, of course, afterwards.
Thank you. And so with that, just to reiterate, it has to find educators who lived experience in the space, both just being educators, but also members of Sunnyvale for a while and working with communities within Sunnyvale in different capacities. Minnie with his work with India Community Center for a really long time, and now with Sunnyvale Community Services. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about our little team. We're small but mighty, is what we say, and we're very different in our search process in that when we dive into this work, Vinny and I will be leading the search specifically ourselves, so we're not delegating to a third, fourth, fifth person. Our team members, specifically most likely Hallie that you see in the second picture there, will help us with just compiling some data. But as far as screenings are concerned, interviewing process is concerned, meeting with board members and actually leading the search itself and all communications, that will happen with us directly. And so with that, I want to jump a little bit into our mission and vision alignment. There we go. Okay, so what I found interesting in both of our mission statements, I'm not going to read, you are able to see that, we're working on empowering organizations in different capacities. But what I found really unique was both our calling to prepare students to be global learners and global citizens in both academic, social, emotional learning. We're doing that same work, but with adults in spaces. And so that's leaders in nonprofits, whether that's educators in the classrooms, but the same exact alignment for the mission in that we're trying to create enduring, equitable communities and create that access. And so I found that very interesting, and definitely a mission alignment piece where we're able to develop that global citizenship within both tiers of humans-centric work, as we like to say. And so I wanted to voice that and say that our missions align in that. And so I'm going to jump forward in just handing over the mic to Vinny to talk about some of our client successes and the value proposition of YS.
Thank you. And some of the logos on the screen might look familiar if you're from the area. With Sunnyvale Community Services, we've helped them hire 2 executive leaders. We're now on a journey with them to build out a strategic plan and sustainability plan for their future. And as such an important safety net organization right here, it's quite a privilege to work with them and support their mission. We've also worked with folks like Menlo College, which is of course higher ed, and helping to hire out their Dean of Advancement and other advancement functions. I think what's important to note is we're all around education and in education with working with Health Connected, which does sex ed work around the state and helping to find their CEO who's been successful and retained there for now 4 years, and so on. And I think as we look at kind of our approach, and I know you're probably curious most about that, I'd love to go to the next slide, Candace, and talk a little bit about what's different about us. You have this incredible opportunity to think through what happens next and who you partner with is crucial. We are a small team, but again, as Candace said, we are deeply embedded and deeply involved in every part of this. You work with us directly. One of the early learnings for us was around inclusive hiring. So I'll tell you that when we first started doing search, we understood that to find the right leader to represent the community, we had to search differently. And it wasn't about just the job posting, and it wasn't just, those are important, but not just about that. It was about rethinking the hiring process, the interview process, how we outreach to people. So we do post on the various job boards, of course, and so on. But most of our work is one-to-one outreach to amazing leaders who may not be looking. And that work happens and those conversations happen because we look like the leaders we're approaching, which gives us a space to have those conversations around DEI, but not just DEI, the belonging of what it is to be a leader in a district and to take in the community and represent the community. In terms of other inclusive hiring practices, we also challenge boards to think through how they approach that. And I know you've all done some really important work around that, and so we're impressed, of course, but bringing in someone who's going to represent your community means being ready for that. So we don't just run the search, we kind of partner with you to kind of prepare for that next person, including looking at culture and change management and community readiness, and most importantly, listening to the diverse stakeholders. When I created youth programs in Sunnyvale for the India Community Center, I was a little bit younger, definitely bright-eyed, more bright-eyed perhaps, and we had to build trust, right? We're taking care of our kids, and we were totally new in 2005, and so building trust with our stakeholders, listening to them, showcasing our excellence, but following through on our excellence was really critical, and we bring those assets to you all today. The other piece here is around sustainability and finding someone who's going to be the right fit and who's going to do well here. And so a lot of our follow-up work, and Candace will go into this, is about how do we retain someone and set them up for success and set you all up for success so that our students and families are set up for success and sustainability. Those are some of the unique things about our work, and I'll pass it back to Candace.
Thank you. So going into our actual search process, can you all see that okay? Sorry, it's so tiny. I thought we were going to get a big screen somewhere. Sorry about that.
We have the package.
Oh, great, perfect, okay. And so it's broken down by various phases and 3 phases per particular, right? So phase 1 and really going into the discovery process. What we do is quite unique in that we become a part of the actual team. That's embedding ourselves and understanding the culture. And part of doing that is forming a transition hiring committee. That for us is very important to have an inclusive voice in that. So you may have heard of other searches led strategically by board members. We would actually invite you all to think a little differently and start to involve community members in that conversation, parents. Even if you're able to even involve students in some of those conversations, there are student leaders from middle school perhaps that can join some of those conversations. And so the very first thing we would do is start to form the transition hiring committee, thinking through whose voices need to be incorporated into the search process. Part of that process then is also to create a survey with your input on the transition hiring committee input on the type of candidate profile, the leadership profile that you would like to see in your leader. What that will do is unveil all of the skills, both social emotional skills, both qualifications, technical, hard, soft skills that we will need to then incorporate into the job description. And the job description would be written from the lens of that inclusivity, in that we'll have the discussion about what should we include as this person in a doctorate, this person in a master's, like what are the qualifications, but more so even from the SEL lens, which is very different. I know that one of your mission alignment pieces here is academic, social, and emotional learning. And so what type of leader would you need to mirror those skills for your students that you're trying to see in your students? And so that's going to come through the profiling. So the first part, transition hiring committee, building the candidate profile, getting through and building the job description. And of course, you all would have to have severe input into that process and approve the job description. We would then move into phase 2, which is launching the public search. A lot of this for us will happen, yes, we'll do the Edjoin, the Indeed, the boards that we need to post on, but for us will happen through networking. Quite honestly, a lot of our searches happen through networking because it's knowing the community and the communities you serve, so we would tap into our networks of educators, of nonprofit leaders, of other areas that would be qualified and ask them for referrals, and through, of course, we'll also get applications through the other Edjoin and Indeed and all the rest, and begin the screening process. What's different for us as well is that we actually are partnering with you throughout that whole process. meaning we'll create the interview questions for you, the rubrics that will go along with all of the phases of the interview process. We also are communicating with candidates and providing coaching, which is also a different unique model of our search process and that building that equitable piece into the search process. You may have heard a lot of search firms, we've heard these horror stories about recruiters where they don't reach out to candidates and give them updates or don't give them feedback on how they perhaps may have done in their first phases of interviews and if there is some areas that they need to do better on. Well, we saw that in our own lives and thought that we should do this differently, as Vinny was saying. And so in our search process, we go back, we gather whatever feedback that this transition hiring committee may have, and if they have open-ended questions, we tell that. We'd be very transparent with all of the candidates in the process, as well as all of you in the transition hiring committee, and letting them know here's areas where you need to do, showcase a little bit better of your potential, because interviewing for a big position like this can be so intimidating. And sometimes people are just not good interviewers, right? They may have the skills, the heart, the passion, but can't interview well. And that's an equity thing as well, because people of color are intimidated being public speakers and in this position. And so providing them with that coaching, that intense sort of one-to-one support really helps create that access and that equity in the hiring process for us. And so that's part of the interview and interviewing phases. And then of course we partner with you on the negotiation and onboarding. That's actually being an extension of your HR and working with you all to figure out what is a margin for salary and doing an offer negotiation, creating this actual offer letter with HR, getting your approval and your signatures on that offer letter, negotiating benefits or salary if that's a need. The other unique part of our search process is creating an onboarding plan. A lot of other recruiters get to the candidates, you hire them, they're done. We've realized that that's not an effective model in that staying on for the first 30, 60, 90 days and helping them onboard and be part of that liaisoning is so important. We're already coaching the candidates during the search process. So we're already assessing their coachability, and we'll bring that forward to you as part of our transparency. And we continue that coaching over the next onboarding phases. So we with you, with your partnership, develop an actual 30, 60, 90-day Excel spreadsheet, very detailed, on what are the high priorities that you would like to focus on. What is the training that this person needs to get up to speed? What is the in-between time between possibly Mike or someone else coming in? If there's overlap, what does that training look like? And so for us, that retention piece is so important. We've all been in positions and jobs that we've taken on, and that first 90 days is so crucial to set up for success or for failure. And we're invested in this, and so we want to make sure that the leaders that we do bring on are feeling successful. And oftentimes we have some really tough conversations if that's not going too well. And that's part of our role as well in bringing this person on. And if there's been issues where perhaps between a board member or a executive director or a person that we've brought on, we help liaison and mitigate those issues and figure out what's the root of the problem and how can we mitigate that. So all of that is part of our process. And with that, I'm going to pass it, just the very last sort of slide here to wrap it all up. We've got local lived experience. We are not running 20 searches at one time for superintendents. We are here in the community, and we have a proven track record in this community for leading searches. We've already talked a lot about equity being part of our work, our lived experience, and our lens in social emotional learning, and just heart for this work. And so thank you so much for having us, and we're open to taking any questions.
Thank you. We're gonna ask for questions public comment after, or?
We already asked for public comment.
We did ask for public comment. Okay, great. So, Port, do you have any clarifying questions, or we're
You can
people
ask-
one at a time?
You can ask them questions directly.
Do you, anybody want to start down with Isabel?
Sure.
So during the process, how many meetings do you think you're gonna have during these 2 months? And how many people, many parts, like how many people do you think you should need in these committees from the parents? And you mentioned that you're gonna invite from different stakeholders. Who are they gonna be? And how many people do you normally get? During the process, you can walk me through how you normally do it.
There's a couple of different ways to look at it. It depends on the community. So one is the Transition and Hiring Committee, which we hope is made up of several of you and staff, of course, and stakeholders. There's not a magic number, but those committees usually end up being between 5 and 9 people for scheduling purposes. The more people, the challenging it is to schedule. And so if we're not able to engage every stakeholder group we want to in that committee, we make space for those stakeholders through the interview process. Like for example, once we get to finalists, making sure we include those stakeholders or representatives that are trusted in those stakeholder communities to certain interviews so that they can give their feedback is critical. There's no magic number, but I would say typically over the course of a search, usually about 4 to 9 meetings, which I know that's a big range, but it depends on how much ramp-up time we have with the existing superintendent. It depends on how quickly we start and push the search out publicly, typically between 4 and 9. Do you want to add to that, Candace?
Just a point of clarification, the transition hiring committee meetings, and you asked the rhythm sort of those meetings, right? And so I would say that we meet, because the search is coming on and it's coming on now, we'd have to launch sort of immediately and meet at least on a weekly or a bi-weekly meetings, at least for an hour. And those can be done on Zoom or in person. It's just a preference of whoever we're working with. And to your point about the stakeholders, we definitely would like to include the district staff here, but also principals perhaps in the community, as well as we spoke about parents, and through the parents' lens, not sure if it's appropriate to engage with students, but would be a recommendation to at least bring on parents. And throughout the interview process, there would be times where there would be phases, as we call them, in between the interview phases, where you would get to meet different stakeholders. So I can very well imagine us having, with the finalists, sort of a meet and greet with the community, and just so we can assess how are they really carrying themselves in the community with a select key stakeholders that you all would help us identify. Does that help answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Michelle, do you have anything? We can come back to, I just want to go down the line, make sure everybody has them.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing, and we appreciate it. I think a little bit of, it's kind of connected to the committees, but maybe, tangent. So you have, not committees, so you have that committee, but then if you could talk a little bit more about how you bring in other voices, right? Like I'm assuming you're not just talking to these 5 to 9 people to come up with everything. So just, what does that various stakeholder community outreach space look like?
Thank you for asking that question. So that clarification will go back to, the answer would go back to the candidate profile survey. And so we know we can't engage with all of the families that are in the area, but what we can do is send out a survey to get some soft feedback from all the members of the community. And then it's not just about getting that feedback, but it's also about being transparent with parents, with staff, with the district schools that are wondering what's going to happen. We have a new leader coming in. And so it's sending that survey out to different stakeholders to gather that input from them, but then also providing them with an executive summary report of, hey, here's what we found out through our survey analysis. And based off of this survey analysis, these are the skills that we're thinking of including in a job description. And then of course, when we launch the job description, then sending that out to the community and really specifying what areas of their feedback did we take and incorporate into the job description itself. And what we also do in the process is write communication letters, which would actually go out from the transition hiring committee to all of the district stakeholders, parents, staff, giving them updates on a monthly basis of here's where we are with the process, here's where we're going. I think maintaining transparency through the whole communication process eliminates a lot of that or anxiety around church change management. And so for that reason, it's very important to maintain transparency and communication with all stakeholders. And then that final process where we said we'd probably do a meet and greet with folks in the district. That's our last way to then make sure that the community feels involved as well and is part of the wedding process and just assessing how the candidates are doing. Does that help? Yeah.
I just want to add also, in some spaces, focus groups can also be helpful with right stakeholders. Especially, when we do surveys, when possible, we do them in different languages so that they're most accessible. But also bringing certain groups together to get their feedback before we launch the public search to hear them. We can facilitate those and have multilingual capabilities as well, so that those stakeholders are heard early on. In addition, because some folks don't respond to a survey, and some folks need their voices heard face-to-face or on Zoom at least. So that can be an effective way to do that too.
Great, thank you. And then my other question is connected to, I guess, kind of with your process in the space of confidentiality for the candidates, right? So I know a lot of times they are in a place that like is good and they don't want that place knowing that they might be looking elsewhere because they don't get it, right? Just that tricky space. So I'm just curious, like, I mean, this idea of this hiring committee like is intriguing and interesting. I like that community stuff, but then my brain is also thinking about the more people that are involved in those processes, right, the more this is then not confidential for candidates. So I'm just curious if you kind of speak to that and your experience in that space.
Yeah, we typically don't do the meet and greets, when a candidate is currently employed somewhere else and not looking and the timing isn't right. So those happen differently depending on who we end up with, but we do orientation for the transition hiring committee about confidentiality. So it's part of our training. Especially because it's a very competitive environment, and we want someone for you all who really wants to be here. We don't want someone to be here as a stepping stone to get to a more resource district. We want someone who sees the opportunity and who's going to stick with us. So while we can't guarantee confidentiality just because we can't anywhere, we do enough work with the transition hiring committee. We also have them sign documentation around confidentiality because the candidates really care about that, and we promise them that we do our absolute best to hold that close until it's appropriate to share with more people.
Yeah, thank you.
And hence why we want to keep the committee as small as possible between those 5 to 7 individuals. Good questions. Thank you.
Hi Candace and Benny, thank you so much for your thoughtful presentation. I appreciate your alignment with our vision and this call for partnership and transparency. My question is around your past experience, and I see that you have a wide range of types of nonprofits as well as educational spaces that you've done searches for. I wonder what other superintendent searches you've done in maybe populations similar to Sunnyvale School Districts.
So transparency, we've never led a superintendent search for a district before. All of our searches have been for other executive leadership positions in nonprofits, as well as academia for Menlo College, but we've never led a superintendent search before.
Can I have a follow-up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, since you mentioned a lot of the candidate, spreading the information, getting information out is through networking, what's your personal networking? How confident are you that you'd be able to bring in a wide range or, find the right person for us?
Yeah, and so let me back up as to why we chose Sunnyvale superintendent position. Vinny's talked a little bit about his heart for the community, and he's worked in ICC, worked as a leader here, and we've worked with Sunnyvale, and we chose to send in this RFP knowing that we've not done any superintendent searches before. And the reason we did that is because we wouldn't have, if we weren't 100% certain that we have the connections in the community as well as the lived experience and education to lead the searches. I have a doctorate, I have friends who are looking for a superintendent position, No, and so I can say this with 100% confidence that we have a network of individuals and people in Sunnyvale that we know would be interested in the job and would not have applied, done this extensive RFP if we weren't certain we would be able to help you with the search.
Just to briefly add on to that, prior to being a consultant, I was the CEO of a nonprofit called My Digital Tattoo, a small organization helping young people learn how to be safe and kind online through digital citizenship and anti-bullying. And one of my jobs was to build an educational advisory board of educators statewide and leaders statewide, and we did that without actual contacts in LA, for example. Here we have contacts from of course, Kansas time to SF State, or our colleagues' times at San Jose State or Cal in those doctoral programs, but working in Los Angeles, we have to build those networks, and I think that it's a mix of really authentic relationship building with a little dose of tenacity that helped us build those relationships and helped us create that. And so that's the same approach we bring here, is a lot of humility and relationship building, but also ambition. And the stakes are high for you all, and certainly the stakes are high for us too. And so I can see us doing that, and we do have the existing networks. I also think that as you look at this, and you're going to make the right decision for your district, which is the best thing for everyone. When we look at our esteemed colleagues in the space who are larger than us, they are much larger than us, and all of their job descriptions look very similar. We're trying to set you all apart again so that you're not just another district looking for another superintendent. And I think because of our backgrounds, but also because of our deep networks, both locally but also in education beyond just local, we feel really comfortable and confident. I'm sure there'll be challenges, but that part isn't the challenging part. The challenging part for us will be to make sure that we find someone with the right fit. So far in all of our searches, the candidate pool hasn't been the issue. Making sure we really hone in on fit, and unconscious bias, and the right candidate for the role is where we spend most of our deep energy in.
Well, yeah, again, we all appreciate, I don't even have to say, we all appreciate you being here and the proposal and your story. I really do love the coaching aspect of it. I think that's super important. And that appeals to me a lot. I'm getting back to the formation of the Transition Hiring Committee. I'm wondering if that committee is meeting weekly with you. I'm just wondering where the board comes in with the review of that. Like what work do you see happening in that Transition Hiring Committee? And what kind of work and feedback are you looping in and getting back from the board? How do you see those two tied together?
Maybe I'll start with just saying that to us it's sort of a subcommittee of the board. Now, it depends on your bylaws and what you all allow, but a subcommittee, and hopefully made up of several of you all so that you can report back. And so what we see happening is that committee meeting and guiding under your umbrella though. And so there are certain decisions in our mind that only the board can make. Outlining what those are ahead of time and figuring out whose role is what is like one of the first few steps. I think where the Transition Hiring Committee comes in that's a little bit different than you all is that we're looking for folks who don't serve on this board to have voice. Oftentimes staff have a really important voice that isn't as heard as we'd like, even with our best intentions. And so I think we would sort of divide that up and let you know, but also the way I want to describe this is you all have so many other things you're doing. And so delegating to this committee means you're also entrusting this committee to ensure that they're giving accurate feedback around what the district wants, that when they're reviewing resumes, they have the district's best interest at heart, and they know what you as a board want, because we would hope that you as a board know what your community wants.
And just to add to that, certainly we'd invite at least 2 or 3 members of this committee to be in the Transition Hiring Committee. And to clarify, the board is the hiring governance and will make the final hiring decisions. And so throughout the process, we mentioned having communication with the board, with staff, with community members. And so to clarify a little bit around that, when we create the candidate profile, that presentation will come to the entire board. The entire board will decide the job description and approve the job description. Certainly the Transition Hiring Committee will give their edits. We'll draft things together first and then bring it to you all for final approval. So that's where the board comes in. You are the governance board. You get to make the final decisions on the job description, who we're hiring, what salary is being given, all of the nitty-gritty decisions that are, as I say, governance are in your capacity. The transition hiring committee is meant for inclusivity and making sure that all voices are represented. They do not have the final hiring approval process, but what they will do is a recommendation and recommend to you which candidate would they want to get hired.
Thank you. Okay, board, any follow-up questions or further questions? No? Okay, well, so I think we've got everything we need and we're ready for the next presentation. And thank you so much for your time and
Thank you guys.
thank you, appreciate it,
Best of
I
luck.
appreciate it. And thank you.
Yes, Vinny.
Yes, thank you so much.
I might not be able to.
Thank you, thank you. Nice hearing about your presentation.
Oh, I can see it.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us this evening. We really are honored to have an opportunity to present our proposal as well as the functions of Leadership Associates. Our role is to help with you build a governance team based on the new superintendent. That's the goal. And we will work with you for however long you need in order to get there. We believe that we know Sunnyvale. We believe we know Santa Clara County. We believe we know California, and we also have a nationwide network as well. And so, as we go through this process, we want you to be aware of that aspect of things. That we truly believe that we are a good fit for Sunnyvale. Just me or you, business. I'm Eric Andrew. I'm the retired superintendent of the Campbell Union School District, a district very similar to Sunnyvale in a lot of different ways. I started off as an instructional assistant in a special ed classroom. Moved my way up through teaching. I've been a teacher in most grade levels, a principal in most grade levels, and went up through the cabinet level position and was fortunate enough to become the superintendent of Campbell for 7.5 years. Retired 8 years ago. I know, 8 years ago. Here's my esteemed colleague.
And Eric and I actually were superintendents in neighboring districts. So Union School District, where I was superintendent for 9 years, is contiguous to Eric, although we aren't married. Just want to let you know that. But just like Eric, you know, I actually started teaching in Illinois and then went out to the East Coast in Connecticut and taught at all grade levels, was an administrator at all grade levels. I actually even taught in France for 2 years when my family lived there. So I was very fortunate to, when I came back to the States, work in Moreland School District as a principal. I worked at the county office as the director of instruction. I was an assistant superintendent of ed services in Gilroy and ended my career in Union School District as their superintendent. I too have been retired for many years and have been doing searches ever since. So both Eric and I have a lot of experience doing superintendent searches. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. And I want to go back to the important aspect of this is your search. And every search is different. Every search is different. We will craft this search. We're fortunate group to be a part of your search process to meet the needs of Sunnyvale. And that will be our main focus. Next slide, please. One of the unique features of Leadership Associates is that we have designated assistants, executive assistants, to work with your executive assistants. They will work with your team in terms of what is the proper language to post information on your website to make sure you're meeting the Brown Act. What are some of the upcoming dates? What are some of the materials that you need to get that will make it easier for you? along the way as well. And so we will have one of our assistants who will be assigned to this particular search, solely working with your district. You can go through with all of that slide. One of the things I want you to look at is, if you notice in every section, we're talking about kids. And this is what we're about. We want to find leaders who are ready, who are kid-focused, kid-centric, who are ready to make sure all students have a quality education, very similar to your promise, which I had to smile a bit, because when I was superintendent, I had a very similar one to yours along the way. And in fact, just 3 weeks ago, I was looking at yours and it made me go back to my little district and thinking, where is the one that we crafted? I think how similar they are. But we really do believe in this work. The other aspect of the work that we do, we are committed. We're in the field. Jackie's going to talk a little bit about how we stay relevant in terms of what's happening with current superintendents, what's happening in the field, so that as we bring you candidates, we know what is not only your background, but what's on the horizon, either at the state and or national level. Next slide, please. Again, tailored to you. We want to make sure we have opportunities. We have over, I think it's almost 1,200 current administrators who are part of our subscription. And so if we're fortunate enough to get this search, we will blast that out to all of them immediately. In addition to that, we have about 250 superintendents, current superintendents, who are part of our network and our learning sessions that we meet with on a regular basis. In addition to that, we have about another 200 working assistant superintendents who are part of our network, who we meet with at least monthly to have conversations with. And that's how we stay grounded in the work of education, not only now, but as we said, looking down the horizon. So we believe the importance of building strong governance teams. We believe in the fact that we know what's happening on the ground here in the state of California, and we are very close to what's going on here in Sunnyvale as well as Santa Clara County. Here's what makes us somewhat unique. Jackie and I are here as your lead search people. If we're granted this search, you will be working with Jackie and I. However, we are all partners. So everyone's name that you see up there is a partner leadership associates, and every 2 weeks, in fact, we had one this morning, we all meet and talk about searches. We talk about trends in education. We talk about professional development opportunities every 2 weeks. And so if we are fortunate enough to get your search, every 2 weeks, Sunnyvale is going to come up. And we're going to talk about, here's what we have going on here. We'll talk to you about the stages and phases that we're in. We'll talk about possible candidates that fit and meet what Sunnyvale says they want to see. And in fact, some of us have been intricately a part of Sunnyvale. I think you've had 2 of our people who have done workshops, governance workshops here in the past. And so again, we believe we have a pretty good feel for what's going on in Sunnyvale.
Okay, well, one of the things that we do pride ourselves on is that we really have a great deal of experience doing searches. And I think you can see that, I don't even know right now if that over 700 is right. It's probably far too low because we have been doing so many searches. So we really feel that we know the search business. As you can see, we actually did the previous search where you had the good fortune to appoint Dr. Gallagher as your superintendent, but we've also done a lot of other searches in the area. These are just some of them: Los Altos, Gilroy, Mill Valley, Morgan Hill Unified, a number of others. We're very, very committed to Santa Clara County and to the districts with whom we have been working over the past years. Next slide, please. Okay, this is actually one of my favorite slides because I think it really captures the big difference between us and any other search firm. Okay, why would you choose us? Well, first of all, We really do believe in our heart of hearts that we can give you the deepest pool of the most highly qualified people. When you saw those stars across the state, all of those people are very, very involved in superintendent searches, working with boards. We know people who know people. We have a huge network. When we meet every other week, we talk about, here's what Sunnyvale's looking for. Do you know any candidates that might be good? Many of us do aspiring superintendent workshops. I did one just this last spring at Silicon Valley Education Foundation. People that want to become superintendents are connected with us. So we really feel that we can give you the broadest and deepest pool of candidates. Eric talked about our 1,500 subscribers. See, it was even higher than you thought. Anybody that wants to be a superintendent is on our subscription list, honestly. We're very committed to diversity and equity and inclusion, and I think over 66% now of finalists were either women or candidates of color this past year. Again, we're California-based, California savvy. I think all of you realize that California is a very unique state. We do have a nationwide pool, but a lot of times candidates who come from other states just aren't as familiar with the laws that govern California, particularly our financial structures. So, that's certainly going to be something that's up to you to decide. Being partners in the firm, all of us are partners. We are owners in this company. So the success of every one of the superintendents that we place is our success. We are not failures, and we don't want our superintendents that we place to be failures. So it's a very important and close to us. We really care very deeply about placing every single superintendent to be successful. Eric talked about us being engaged. I'll show you on another slide. We all are highly engaged. We do coaching, we do board workshops, we're in professional organizations. We're far too busy for retired people, to be quite honest. And one of the other things, with actually two more, one is that we provide the new superintendent walking in a 90-day entry plan that will be worked out with you, working with that new superintendent on what are those highest priorities that that superintendent needs to work on. Prior to that, though, we also have a 3-day workshop for new superintendents and sitting superintendents, and we offer that to your new superintendent to attend for free. It's in Southern California. I think Dr. Gallagher's been to many of them. They're just very, very powerful learning experiences, good networking experiences. So this is why us. Next slide, please. Yes, so if you would, just kind of flip through those, and I'll walk you through those. First and foremost, the search starts and it ends with you, okay? One of the very first things, if we're lucky enough to be selected, is we're going to schedule what we call the initial meeting. During that initial meeting, we actually nail down every single part of the search, every date for the candidate selection, all the stakeholder inputs. We involve your stakeholders by having stakeholder input sessions with each and every group that you want us to speak with. It was really interesting today in our partner session, one of the forums that we have usually has 50 different stakeholder sessions. That's just what the forum is, right? Most of us do somewhere between 30 and 50 stakeholder sessions. One of our partners said, oh my gosh, we had to ask that we enlarge the forum because our board wants us to do at least another 25. So you have us for however many stakeholder sessions you want. If you want us to talk to the sheriff from 3 years ago, we'll talk to the sheriff from 3 years ago. However many stakeholders you want us to engage. And that's how we engage the stakeholders. We feel that it's important to get as much input as possible, and that input, along with the survey, helps us develop a position description. I kind of took a little umbrage when I, heard it said that some search firms, I'm sure it's not ours, have a boilerplate position description. We do not. We take all of that input from your stakeholders, we take all of the input from your survey responses, you get all the raw data. You will get to see all the raw data, but we take it, we synthesize it, we triangulate it, we find the trends, And we put that together in a position description that matches what your community is looking for. We put that into the position description and we send it to you for your approval. We also will give you an executive summary of all of that data. And in addition, you get all the raw data. So if you have, I'm sure you will, 800 survey responses, you get to stay up nights and read every single one of those comments like we do. So it's a lot of information, but we feel that we do an excellent job of gaining the community's input and also their assurance that we care about hearing their voices. So once we're done with that, of course, we do our recruiting, and very important, because of our network across the state, we don't wait for people to just send their applications in. We're always reaching out. People that we know, people that we've heard of, people that our colleagues know. So we really do get a deep pool of candidates. And then we have all of that candidate application material, and it'll be available to you in a portal. You'll be able to go online, just, click your computer, and every one of the applicant's materials will be available for you to preview before we have our meeting with you, which we call the candidate selection. So you'll have had time to review all of that information, and during candidate selection, we will be presenting to you what we feel are the top tiers, and then the second tier, and then the third tier, which is we don't recommend that you have these, because in our reference checking, we found things out that other people do. And for our reference checking, because we know so many people across the state, we don't just call the people that are on their papers. Come on, if they put that person's name down, let's face it, that's not gonna be real honest.
And if they do, even if they do, we call that person and say, can we have an offline conversation with you? And we really get a sense of questions such as, what were their admirers say about them? What did their critics say about them? And we look for that, and we actually ask the candidates in their interview, pre-screening, those two questions as well, to see if there's some triangulation. We're looking for self-awareness, we're looking for honesty, all those types of things. And so if in their pre-interview, they don't list some of the things that several of their references say, that tells us a little bit about their own self-awareness as well.
And another thing that we do is we do a deep dive into their social media and of course all of the press or anything like that. Because the last thing any of us would want to see is that you have a community member that says, I was digging into social media and I saw, the candidate dancing naked at a tabletop. No, we don't want that to happen. So anyway, we do a very deep dive. We also facilitate the whole interview process for you. So we take those position description characteristics and we use them with you to develop interview questions. Because if this is what you're looking for, then we need to help develop questions that are going to elicit the kinds of responses that'll see, does that person have the skills and aptitude to meet the challenges that you face? So we take care of all of that, facilitate all the interviews. And again, I don't think I can say enough about how important having a full-time assistant who will work with your executive assistant is going to be for you, because there are a lot of logistics. And so she'll walk you through every piece of it. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please. And our closing thoughts, again, this is your search. This is the most important decision that you as a board are going to make. And so however you want it to be done, that's how we're going to do it. We want to make sure that it's personalized, broad-based, high-tech, anything that you would like. One of the other things that I think is really important is that we believe our fee is reasonable and it's also all-inclusive. We're not going to ding you for how many stakeholder input days we may have to do. We just really feel that whatever it takes, that's what we want to do. I talked about the full-time administrative support. That is the most important thing, I honestly believe. We really believe in hiring people who are going to represent your community. I think that's very important. We are experienced, as we've said, and most important, we're all passionate about this work. Leadership matters, and we believe that with our hearts. So, thank you. Do you have any questions?
Sure, well, thank you so much. Appreciate the presentation. Isabel, are you ready to start? Do you have any clarifying questions or questions?
No, really, you came up when and answered the questions that we asked the other team to already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle?
Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. I think my only question, I mean, so yeah, Samara, I think you covered a lot of this stuff. I guess my one question would be I'm a little bit intrigued by the committee, I don't remember the hiring committee idea. Have you guys ever done things like that? Is that like something you would be open to? I'm just kind of curious about space a little bit.
Yes, we have done it. It's rare, but we have done it. I think I've done 2 or 3. But going back to what you said, when the combo is made, it will change your pool. There will be superintendents who will not apply if they know there's a community group that's there. We absolutely have experienced that each time. It doesn't mean you can't have some type of a hybrid. But when we have 2 types of searches, basically. We have an open search, which means it's open, you're gonna have community members as part of the process. And then there's the closed search, which is the one where the board actually does the interviewing, et cetera. Each time I've done it with the open, we've had superintendents back out. And it's also one of the questions candidates ask us going in, is it an open or is it a closed? Because even in this case, let's just say you guys decide if we're selected, you decide it's going to be a closed process. Sitting superintendents are going to apply the very last day before of the closing, because they want no chances that it's going to get out there ahead of time that they are a part of the process.
And I would also like to add, one of the things that can get in the way of having an open search is that oftentimes, well, I won't say oftentimes, several times while I've been doing searches that have been open, a community advisory type group likes one candidate, but the board likes a different candidate, and that really sets that person up for a lack of success.
That's you guys up.
Yeah, so you either pick the candidate you didn't really want, or, I mean, there are just a lot of, there are maybe some pros for that, but there's a lot of cons to it.
Okay, one follow-up, when you mentioned the idea of a hybrid, I'm gonna ask you like what you meant by that, but when you said that, one thought that I just had was, right, maybe you have this committee who does kind of the first stuff, like helping with creating the, sorry, I'm not sure of all my words today, the superintendent like job description, right? So maybe they're helping with that beginning stuff, and then when it actually transitions to after, right, the candidates have turned and stuff, then it's not that committee. I don't know, is that what you were thinking when you said hybrid, or did you have other ideas?
Typically, what it means is that group is not going to rank the candidates.
Yeah.
At all. Because we need to protect you as a board, so that you have the final say on the candidate themselves, and that you're not bucking against any other entity along the way. So sometimes when we've done it, the hybrid is, if the candidate does interview with the group, the panel doesn't rank. They just give strengths and areas of growth or questions.
Is that, I think I heard about something like that where you had the people who were on the panel were in the audience or something, and they were making notes, and then when the board was deliberating, they passed around the feedback or something. Morgan Hill was talking to me about that.
Yeah, typically what we've done is the candidate would go to 2 rooms. They would meet first of all with one group, meaning either the board, and the next meeting would be with the group, the panel itself. And then all the candidates would go through that process. We would do a list of, okay, here's candidate 1, what are the strengths of this candidate? What are the areas of growth or questions that you have about that same candidate? And then the board can read that and decide if that influences, and you could, I'm not saying it wouldn't, your decisions.
Hi, thank you for coming and presenting to us. My first question was going to be about the 26.5, is that really all inclusive? And Jackie, you said we have you as long as you need us, we need you. Okay, you need us to need us.
You never get rid of us.
So I've just been getting to know other trustees in the area. I've heard about a lot of other searches that are also happening at this time.
Yes.
I'm wondering about the timeline, the proposed timeline. Does that seem realistic? Like, what if we don't find the right person by then? I'm sure this has happened in the past, but like, I'd love to hear more about timeline and flexibility.
Yeah, we think the timeline works well. You have an advantage. And this is gonna be pretentious, but you're Sunnyvale. People are your destination district. People are gonna wanna come here, et cetera. So even the people who are in a couple of searches, they're gonna wanna come here in terms of that. So that shouldn't be an issue. I forgot the second part of your question. Whoops.
Is it doable?
Oh, is it doable? Oh, yeah, absolutely doable. Absolutely doable.
And at the initial meeting, if we were to be selected, we would ask you all to bring your calendars because we want to really nail dates down. So the timeline that you have is, kind of general, because a lot of it's going to depend on your calendar.
And in addition to that, just as another piece, about every 2 weeks, we will send you a message to say, here's where we stand in the search. And that's helpful to you as a board, because as you're out and people ask you, so where are we in the search process? You can say, well, it sounds like we have about 40 people who've requested applications. We've got 13 who've submitted applications. We're going to have our next meeting on this particular date. So we want the board to be able to respond to the public as well as to each step along the way and have talking points ahead of time as well.
And along with that, sometimes on your website, you'll have a specific place that'll say superintendent search. You can post some of the information that we'll be sending you on that bi-weekly basis, again, to keep your community apprised of where things are.
So you talked about an onboarding period as well. Is that included as the search? It's part of the search? You said like a 90 days?
Yes, we have the 90-day entry plan that we work with, your new superintendent, and then that new superintendent hopefully will attend the Summer Institute. Do you know what the dates are? June?
12th to 14th, something like that.
Yeah. And so we work with the new superintendent group as well, get them to establish, some networks with the other new superintendents.
And then your firm may continue to support the superintendent.
We usually do. We
Yes,
usually make
yes.
sure that that superintendent is, got his or her feet on the ground, well planted.
Thank you.
So, do you do site visits to finalists if they're, once they're, is the final yes or no?
It's up to you. I have to say that in the last, certainly since COVID, I haven't done any site visits. What we have done is have some Zoom visits with the team from other districts, but I haven't done any actual site visits. Did you?
No, yeah, if that is the case, we will do Zoom so that you can maybe have a Zoom call with the finalist board. And here's another place where you could possibly have some of your stakeholders that they can meet with maybe a light group via Zoom, et cetera. So that's another place to involve them.
Okay, and then just I have one more question that was about the outreach. I think that some people they might not know, just like they don't really know what the board does. They might not know exactly what the superintendent does. They might know he's the boss, but they don't really understand what's involved with the role, why it's important to give feedback, how the person at the top can make a difference, and working with the board, but also, being a leader, and all the different responsibilities they have. So I'm wondering, I really want to have a lot of, one of my things would be I really want to have a lot of outreach, but I think to get people to participate, how do you really educate them about what the role is that we're trying to get feedback on? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's several ways in which we do that, including not only an online survey, but we're gonna bring that list that we had talked about with 15 or more. It's your opportunity really to do an outreach for the voices who aren't necessarily a part of your process. It's really a chance to get them to be a part of it. And we have found that they are, because as our other group mentioned, personal outreach is important. And so if there's groups or community members that you really want to participate and not participate in the past, then having someone reach out to them and say, here, this is important for our work, important to you. And that really does help. We have found that regardless of the community, that people hear about the superintendent, they may not know necessarily what they do, but they know it's a big job. And they want to have voice in terms of who selected and what their opinions are.
So, go ahead.
I was just gonna add, I had recently done some 8th graders, and I was actually so pleasantly surprised when they came out with comments like fiscally responsible. So, I mean, I don't short sell people. I think, people have a big enough understanding of the responsibility, maybe not, on the micro level, but I think they understand that there's a budgetary concern, there's, an instructional concern, things like that.
Then the last question, and it's a clarifying question, is for these surveys, I can't remember from the last time, but I think it was right during COVID, and it was just so crazy. As a process, like I was a blur, I was, still a pretty new board member. How do you support staff members to give feedback without to feel safe about giving feedback,
It's anonymous, so the survey is 100% anonymous, and staff members really like to tell us their opinion.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sure, go ahead, Michelle.
One more question, I know like Leadership Associates is doing lots of searches at the same time, but you guys specifically, are you currently doing any other searches that will overlap during our search?
I don't know about overlap. I'm finishing up Las Lomitas and Mountain View Wisman in the next 2 weeks. So I'd be starting here, so.
And I'll be finishing the county offices in the next 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks.
Okay, so it might be just slight overlap
Yeah.
at the beginning, but then you
Yeah.
don't have other ones.
No.
Okay.
We're very selective.
We're very busy.
We are, yes. And be frank with you, we only put in bids for the places we want to work. Because we are retired, we have that option and so on, so we really are very selective in terms of where we want to go and work.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Great, so thank you so much for your presentation. Really
Thank you.
Okay, do we need to make rather than discussing before making a motion, we need to make a motion to discuss? Or do you want to discuss a little first?
Just adding today, right?
Yeah, we have to decide today.
Let's make a motion.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion?
I would say for discussion purposes, I would make a motion to, what's the right word, approve or appoint, select, thank you, that's the word, select Leadership Associates as our consulting firm.
Need a second?
I second.
Thank you. Do you want to start?
Sure. So I think I'm grateful for like both of the groups. I really appreciate the feedback and their ideas. There was a lot of pieces of Aurora Collective that I find intriguing and interesting. But I think the two reasons I'm leaning more towards Leadership Associates is one, the cost is significantly less, and then two, the specific experience with superintendent searches would be my two reasons, kind of the tip of the scale for me.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to those same reasons as well, and I kind of wish the Aurora Collection was still here because I am very impressed by their proposal and the way that they their partnership model and the focus on SEL. And that really speaks to me, like I wanting to give someone a chance, but maybe not the first superintendent search with our district because it's such a critical role. So I feel very confident, especially with your price point, the difference is such a big difference. So yes, that's
You're looking
my
like a
support.
deal, is what it's saying. It's like, even if it's a ton of money, it looks like a real bargain right now.
Yeah.
It's not a bit higher.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I think it was I think we are tuned today.
We're all probably on the same.
Yeah. So I also agree with that, but I just want to also say that I was a little concerned about the proposal of kind of abdicating the authority or like the decision-making authority or reading the resumes when they said that group reads the resumes, and I just kind of like, that was startling for me because one of the things, even as a relatively new board member, that I really appreciated about the process last time around was that even, all of us on the board were able to really, I remember reading those resumes, kind of digging into like those people's why, how they would be a fit, and just processing and having like a really great discussion with the rest of the board about it. And so I do want inclusivity, and I do want to have like as much input and information and outreach as possible, but it's our responsibility, and I really feel like I did have a board member from another district say to me that I was sharing with Mike and Peggy or maybe it was Michelle the other day, that they said to me, I think it was Michelle who said, they said to me, and if you get it wrong, you'll never forgive yourself. I was like, oh my God, I'm already feeling the stress, So, no pressure, but I really do take the responsibility seriously, and I'm excited to learn about like what our priorities are and what our district's priorities are, and what everybody's priorities are. So, I'm also in agreement. So, I think it sounds like we're ready to vote.
Can I share one thing?
Yeah.
So this will be more when we have the discussion with our search firm. I just want to say it now, hopefully I don't forget, others don't. Like, I think we're probably gonna end up wanting the closed session, but maybe we have a stakeholder group who helps make the questions, right? So maybe it's a bigger stakeholder group, especially that include teachers and principals, that they then maybe create a list of however many questions, and then the board decides at the end, like, okay, we're gonna do these 5 questions.
I would love
Something like that.
I would love to discuss that later,
Yeah.
because the way I understood the conversation was that the questions would come out of all the feedback we're gonna get. So they would be a part of the question generation, and rather than like the board we have our questions we wanna ask, we might have some questions we wanna ask, but it sounded to me, maybe we could
Yeah, we'll dive into it later. I
we
just
could
wanted to throw it out
clarify,
there.
but I'm really not interested in having another committee, like, an additional committee.
Yeah.
So, at that level, so. But yes, so are we ready to vote?
Before we vote,
yes,
just
so
real quick.
yeah.
I think we talked about next Tuesday, another special board meeting.
Yep.
And then maybe leadership associates could talk about like what would be involved in that first meeting.
Do you wanna come back to the table?
Well, should we vote
There we
first?
go.
Well, once you vote, then like you go
Oh,
on to the
okay.
next agenda.
Yeah. Do you have a minute to tell us what we would do if you're available? Come on back, yeah. Sure.
Are we
Well, no, they're gonna come
We're
to the
gonna
mic, they're
present
gonna tell us
because
a
as soon
little
as
bit
we
about
vote, it's
what
over.
that Tuesday meeting would look like.
So before we
Because once
vote,
you vote, then you go
We're
on to
done.
the next agenda.
so before we vote, we would love to understand better, what we could be discussing next Tuesday at a special board meeting on this topic.
So as I mentioned before, you're gonna need to bring your calendars. So one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to outline the whole search process and agree on what dates that we're going to have our candidate selection and our interview.
As well as when we want the online survey to go out, when we want the stakeholder groups identified, when we're going to have the in-person or the virtual stakeholder inputs. We'll go through all those calendar events initially. That's because those are things we really need to get locked in.
And as Eric kind of mentioned, really digging down into which of the stakeholder groups that you want us to schedule input sessions with. So, obviously your labor partners, your classified, your executive officers for those labor groups, your teachers, your parents, which parents, your SSC people, your, Home and School Club or PTA. We will provide you with a list of sample kinds of groups that you might be interested in, but you'll let us know which ones you want us to meet with, and then we'll proceed with scheduling those on the dates that we have already decided that we're gonna meet with those groups on. So go ahead.
And in addition to that, your external facing groups, you may have city council, you may have other organizations who you want us to reach out and be a part of the process as well. So I can start to identify that group, because as soon as the groups are identified, then we're going to be able to schedule blocks in terms of deciding who is going to be in person, how many days are Jackie and I going to be sitting in the room as people come through, who are we going to do versus some Zoom calls and so on based on their schedules too, because we want to be available as well to the groups.
And then we're also gonna talk to you about advertising, what dates we'll be doing the advertising. We're going to go through all of that, and then we are gonna meet with you in closed session for a very brief amount of time and just talk to you about some personnel questions we have for you.
Oh, and the main thing we're going to do, remember we've talked about the online survey, we've talked about the input sessions, etc. We ask everybody the same 3 questions, and that's how we triangulate. First question is going to be, what are the characteristics do you want to see in the next superintendent? So we're going to ask you that in a public meeting. And so you'll get a chance to give us feedback. Here are the characteristics we'd like to see. Then we're going to.
This is Tuesday.
This is Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then we're going to ask you, what are the strengths of the district? And this is where you get a chance to brag about Sunnyvale. And then we'll follow that up with, where are the areas of growth? What are the challenges that you see in the district that the new superintendent needs to be aware of? We're going to ask every single person we interview those same 3 questions. There may be a few others, but those are the 3 we're going to use to create the executive summary as well as the position description.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, board? Anything further you want to add?
No.
Okay, great. I think we're ready to vote then. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming back. Musical chairs.
And do we have that, after you vote and if you select us, do we have that date? Is it gonna be next Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
What time?
6 o'clock, right?
6 o'clock.
Okay, 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, board, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's unanimous, 4-0. Thank you. Okay, great. Yeah, so. Do we need? Well, why don't we start right at 6 o'clock? So if it's, instead of 10 minutes. So why don't we come back right at 6 o'clock, that's 8 minutes from now. So the board will just take a short break for a few minutes and we'll regroup and exit again.
I'm just gonna put them back. Ready first?
What cookies? Everything, so like cookies. Good. Get them away from me. No, I do.
Put them in the back, I know.
Well, that normally. What's I'm trying to remember, do we have both grades on? Okay. There is a. Oh, no. Yeah, well, if you're trying to. You know, that has that technology, it just, it got to. I know. And it should be. Okay, so like normal, what I would think of it, it's like that. About 5 years. So much. So he's not. No, We're not there yet. He keeps saying this.
Yeah.
What do you think? Give it another minute?
She said equity.
Do you want to, I know. Do you want to ask her?
Wow, that's so cool.
She's out there.
They're gonna be walking around the building.
No, did you see her about? Oh my gosh. No, because we. Questions already answered. You only like, we're gonna talk.
That's the safest one.
Yes, ma'am.
I lost the time, great.
Great. Okay, welcome back. It's 6:05 and we are back at the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education meeting. Welcome. We are now on agenda item 3B, the interviews of board candidates and the selection of a new board member. I will let Dr. Gallagher introduce this topic.
Yes, so on January 16th, the Board of Education approved a resolution for the matter of establishing a procedure to fill a board vacancy. That vacancy was created when Eileen Lay was, it says because she resigned from the board, which is technically what happened, but really it's because she won an election to be representative on City Council. We're really proud of her for that. But that did create a board vacancy for us. And so with that resolution, we then created a public notice. And I'm really, if I can editorialize here, I'm really proud of the board for the outreach that they did to find board candidates. You know, when we moved to bi-trustee area elections, one of the concerns was that we wouldn't have enough people to fill board positions. And what we found is it's just the opposite, that people are interested in representing their immediate community, they're interested in being on our school board. Hopefully they're not deterred by having to run an election for the whole school board. So anyway, I'm really proud that we have 4 fantastic candidates here as a result of the outreach of the board. And so what we're doing tonight is we need to go through a pretty scripted process of interviews leading to discussion among the board and then finally a selection of a provisional appointment to the Board of Education. And it starts right away with as soon as 2 days from now. So with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Bridget, who has the script that we're gonna follow through.
The script from the lawyer. It's wonderful. Okay, all right, so the board currently has a vacancy following Eileen Lay's resignation to serve on the city council. The board has scheduled tonight's special meeting to give it an opportunity to hear from all applicants and ultimately select one to fill the seat. The district and the board appreciate the interests of all applicants in serving the district as part of the board and expect that the board will have a difficult decision here tonight. We want to thank all of the applicants for coming forward as part of this process. While the board may only select one applicant to fill the seat tonight, we want to let you know that there are many ways, besides filling the vacancy, that you can support the district, and we hope you will take advantage of those opportunities. Many of you already do, so thank you. Before we get started, I wanted to let everyone know how the board plans to make this decision tonight. The board has reviewed all of the applications and looks forward to hearing from the applicants. Following public comment, the board will be asking the applicants to provide their 2-minute statement and then to answer, didn't change it on here, 8 questions. Each applicant will have between 1 and 3 minutes to respond per question as noted. We will go by alphabetical order in the order of last name to determine the order of applicants. We will ask that the applicants wait in the McKinley conference room until it is their turn. And we'll have someone show you where that is, don't worry. After all of the applicants answer the questions, each board member will have an opportunity to discuss what they are looking for in an applicant to fill the vacancy and identify the top 2 applicants. After each board member identifies their top 2 applicants, the board may consider a motion to make the appointment, or they may ask all identified applicants to answer a second round of 2 questions in reverse order from the first round. Each applicant will have 2 minutes to respond per question for this round. After the second round of questions, the board will begin its deliberations again, focusing on what they are looking for in an applicant to fill the vacancy, and may, if they wish, identify the applicant they believe should join the board. Following board discussion, the board will entertain a motion to make the appointment. It will take an affirmative vote of at least 3 board members to make the provisional appointment. The successful applicant will then be administered the oath of office. We do have a placeholder for a ceremonial oath of office on the meeting agenda for this week, February 27th. But if the new board member prefers, we can arrange a ceremonial oath of office on another date that works for the new board member's family and friends to attend, or after the 30-day provisional period. Okay, so before we move to the interviews, the board would like to call for any public comments on the appointment. Each member of the public will have 2 minutes to provide public comment on this topic, up to a total of 20 minutes. And if there's anyone in the room who would like to make a comment on the application, on this process, you can fill out a blue card in the back of the room. We will also take questions or comments, public comment online. Do we have any cards? Okay, so if you're online, please raise your electronic hand now. Okay, so it looks like we have 1 public comment.
It's Gita Golakota.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Gallagher. Thank you, Dr. Dean, and respected Board of Trustees. I do want to speak in favor of Ms. Courtney Johnson's application. I witnessed her commitment to the community by engaging the community for many initiatives that she believed in, and she also has shown proven leadership skills and coalition building throughout several areas of work that she has been involved in, from San Miguel PTA to SCA, Sunnyvale Education Foundation, through Sustainability Commission, and also other initiatives that she's involved in, like Lakewood Village Association, that she has been a vice president of. I love her meaningful and effective advocacy because she has shown not only her intent to work with different stakeholders, but also has shown her ability to find a common ground to expand, field trip assembly catalog, or right now she's also thinking about after school assembly catalog roundtables, working with the school district, and also with the Sustainability Commission, some of the other initiatives such as working with I found her to be one of the few parents who has attended the board meetings and has shown interest in the board agenda items, has wanted to know more, shown the curiosity. And also on top of it, she has shown genuine commitment to the district's success. She genuinely wants better outcomes for all students. And she has been a perfect advocate for all students, especially from an equity lens. So I think given these qualities, I think she can immediately start contributing and will be a wonderful choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, seeing no other public comment, we are going to make one more announcement. So before we ask the applicants to wait in the McKinley Conference Room, we have a request for you. Because this meeting is being broadcast live, we hope that the candidates will respect the process so that the questions remain confidential to each candidate until it's asked by the board. So we humbly request that the candidates not correspond or interact with viewers or other candidates who have been interviewed before them about the questions that we ask in this open public meeting so that it's fair for all candidates. We also want to remind all applicants that the board will be asking you to start with your 2-minute statement, and then you will have 1 to 3 minutes to answer each of the 8 questions. Mr. Romero and Ms. Wilson will be our timekeepers, and they will make sure that you can see the timer on the screen. A hard copy of the questions and eventually some note paper will be available at the podium for use for you if it's desired. When you're answering the questions, we invite you to be as specific as possible by using details or examples. With that, we would like to ask all the applicants to please just wait a few minutes in the McKinley room, just for about 5 minutes so that the board can get ourselves organized and review the questions and who's saying what. So if you don't mind stepping out just for a few minutes, Mr. Romero will show you where the McKinley conference room is. Thank you. Yes, okay, so board, we're yeah. Oh, we're still here. Okay, no problem.
You guys can bring those.
Yeah, bring that. Take those cookies with you. Don't leave them here. Thank you, Mr. Nishihara. Okay, so board, we have 8 questions. You can see they range from 1 to 3 minutes. We assigned it so everyone is saying 2 questions. So hopefully the order is okay. The main thing to remember is that we cannot ask follow-up questions. We cannot deviate from the script at all because this process is for a provisional appointment. We want to keep it as clean as we can so that there's no perceived barriers or preferences. Anything else you want to add, Michelle?
So what she's saying, right, is you just read your question exactly as it is. Don't adjust, you just read the question. And then, like where it says, so you can either at the beginning of the question, end of the question, say you'll have, so I maybe do the beginning and say you have 3 minutes for this question and then read it, and then remind them again maybe of yours. Or if it's a question that says, like I have one that's 1 minute or less, I'll say 1 minute or less. But yeah, just
and then
read it word for word.
Yeah, and then the 2 questions on the back are just for in case we have a runoff, and then we will just ask those 2 questions of the candidates. They won't be leaving the room. The idea is to have them stay in, but alternate who gets to go first in reverse order. And then at the end, we're gonna decide who our top 2 are. We're not gonna rank them 1 and 2. We're just gonna say who our top individually. And then we're gonna hand them either to Mike or to Jesus. I think in the script it says Mike, but we can, if it's okay with you, and we're trying to get to two would be our goal, or if not one. But the idea would be if there was somebody if it ends up being like a 3-3-2, then one of those two is somebody who's your number one, really. We could have 3 people in the final round if we needed to, but we would have that discussion based on how the numbers are.
So hopefully we'll get it down to 2.
Yeah.
And then do those follow-up questions, and then have a more lengthy discussion at that point. For the decision.
It might get down to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And either of you have questions?
process. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I think we're ready. How are we calling people or getting them here? That
In
would
case
be-
Zeus goes and grabs them, yeah.
Okay, so I think that we are ready. I believe our first person would be Ms. Alvarez. Thank you.
Getting flashbacks, Michelle.
Hi, welcome. Thank you. So welcome, Ms. Alvarez. Whenever you're ready, please give us your 2-minute statement briefly stating why you are interested in serving on the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education and what skills you bring to the position.
Yes, thank you so much. It is lovely to be here. Nice to meet. I think I've actually met all of you, but it's lovely to be here. I never in a million years think I would run for this position, honestly. I was presented this opportunity at Leadership Sunnyvale when we came here, so that was really exciting. I will say that I've gone to 2 of the schools, how I mentioned in my application, so I think this is a great way to give back to my community, as well as just kind of honoring the district that served me as a kid. Some of the things that I would bring to the table would be teamwork. I'm a very good communicator too, I'd say. I also feel like I'm a pretty good team player. I feel like we're all here to serve the kids, and that's the best way. I think us being here is the best way that we can, support them in their environment and just in their endeavors. As well as, I will say that advocating for diversity and inclusion is a big thing for me. I think that's something that I feel like I would bring to the table as well. I think being a first generation college student, I kind of have a different lens. And also having gone to these schools, I feel like I do have a different lens compared to all of you. So those are some of the things that I would bring.
Thank you so much. We were a little late on the time. I believe we're at time, so thank you. Okay,
What do you see as strengths of the Sunnyvale School District, and what do you see as the areas most in need of improvement? And you have 3 minutes for this.
Thank you.
excuse me. So this question is 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So one of the strengths that I see in Sunnyvale is really the diversity of all different kinds of students, as well as the different schools bring different things to each student, which I think is really nice. Being at school, I remember field trips were always a good thing. The teachers were always very lovely. I have some amazing teachers that I had. Some of the weaknesses I maybe would say is, and this is kind of referring back to when I went, would be kind of like transportation issues. Being in middle school, I would have to take the bus. I think kind of it's in a way it's kind of the school's responsibility on how kids get to school, and I think buses would be amazing. But yeah, I think that's one of the weaknesses of the district.
All right, you'll have 3 minutes. You'll have 3 minutes for this question as well. On average, the board meets twice a month. There is reading and preparation before the meeting. Additionally, there are weekly updates and email correspondence. You are committing to additional training and board development to become a more effective trustee. We know you're active in the community. What are some of the what challenges do you anticipate, if any, in meeting these expectations?
I think for me, the biggest challenge is I am a community college student, so kind of just navigating schoolwork. I am also part of student government at school, so I do have meetings to attend there and things like that. But I think really it's just the key is finding out those times that work best and really communicating if yes, this does work, no, this doesn't work. Yeah, I think it's just finding that good organizational skills as well as just calendars. Calendars are a big thing now. I unfortunately have a couple of calendars to look after, but yeah, calendars is a big thing.
Thank you. And then a related question, and you'll just have 1 minute for this because it's shorter. Please take less than 1 minute to respond. Given that we are setting out to hire a new superintendent, what is your flexibility to add a few additional board meetings, including one all-day interview, to your schedule this spring?
Yes. I will say that for the most part, I'm kind of busy in the mornings, Monday through Thursday, but in the afternoons is when I'm not busy, as well as Fridays, I'm open all day. Yeah, I'm willing to commit a day or two to this.
Hello, so this will be a 3-minute question. As a board member, you'll be asked to make decisions where you must put aside what's best for you, your family, and your friends to do what's best for all students in the district. What does this mean to you?
For me, this really goes to thinking about the students, kind of putting myself in their situation. Again, kind of looking back at, I know it says not to think of you, but in a way, it's kind of like thinking back to when I used to be in school, something like that. Yeah, I think it's just thinking about the students, the teachers, kind of what they go through, as well as, I know sometimes you guys get information on you take surveys and things like that, just looking at those different types of things. If it's ever possible, maybe speaking to different classes or just getting feedback, I think is a really big thing.
Thank you. Okay, so this next question is another 3-minute question. Our board consists of 5 people who work towards consensus on sometimes difficult decisions. Describe your communication style in this type of scenario. Also describe how you would respond if the majority decision was counter to your vote.
I think sometimes different viewpoints is a good thing. Sometimes we may all think the same thing, but sometimes challenging that is a good thing. It brings out different ideas, different viewpoints. I think it's really just all talking it over, really seeing why you think this, where you're coming from is a big one. I also think, kind of feel like the part where it's with both of our votes are different. I think, it's just going back to why do you think this? And really just talking it out and seeing where both parties are coming from is a good one.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a 1-minute question, and this term is up in fall of 2026. All things being equal, will you expect to run or continue your service on the board?
Yes, so I did briefly talk to one board member about this. Since I am a community college student, I am planning to transfer out next year, fall of 2026. So that would mean around August, I would be transferring out to college, and I am looking at potentially going to like Southern California or a different part of California, so I think that would be a conflict that I would have.
Okay, so this is the last question. It's 2 minutes for this one. What's a question you wished you would have been asked?
Actually, the 7th question was the one that I wish that would have been asked. That's the one that I had in mind, so I don't have one.
Great, well, thank you so much, Ms. Alvarez, and if you don't mind waiting in the McKinney room, we'll be calling you back out later.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if my alphabetization is correct, I believe Courtney Jansen is next. Thank you. There's an instinct of wanting to ask clarifying questions to follow up. It's so difficult.
I know.
Especially if you just do the other thing.
Mike, answer your question about like flashbacks. I would say like this time around way less nervous, but way more awkward. Right? It's more nervous in my mind. It's more nervous being right there. But at the end, it's way more awkward to be right there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Welcome. So, welcome, Ms. Jansen. The first question is 2 minutes. As you know, please give us your 2-minute statement, briefly stating why you are interested in serving on the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education and what skills you bring to the position.
And that's my timer.
That is correct. That is your time.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I guess I'll bend down. Okay. So as we all know, the North Sunnyvale community has been historically neglected and underserved, just in general, right? We don't have access to a good grocery store. We don't have a public high school. Our residents tend to be lower income, speak English as a second language, and often work multiple jobs. And so in the last few years, I've been working to impact change for our community. Things like addressing transportation issues for North Sunnyvale high school students trying to get to Fremont. Looking at advocating for the high school district to move to trustee area elections, and thank you to everyone who was working on that project. Bringing information to our community through our monthly neighborhood association newsletter. Bringing the mayor and city manager to our neighborhood meetings so that our residents could ask questions directly. Supporting the FTAC project and other things through Sunnyvale Education Foundation, and etc. And so I have really centered my work on bringing more equity and attention to our neighborhood. And I want to serve on the board because frankly, it feels like a natural next step. I'm excited to serve, to support the district as it implements the strategic plan, the LCAP and other things, and to continue to build on the amazing existing work that has already been done. In terms of skills that I bring, I'm just going to list them. I'm very organized. I'm able to focus on the details and the bigger picture at the same time. I'm really good at bringing people from different departments and different backgrounds together so that they can work on the same project, align on goals and priorities and collaborate. That's basically my day job. I like to connect people. I like to liaise across different teams, bring people together with similar interests, and find partnerships and relationships that will allow us to leverage each other's strengths and interests. I like to think I'm really good at listening. My kids may disagree occasionally, but I think I'm a pretty good listener. And I like to ask a lot of questions. And finally, I will bring the perspective of a San Miguel parent to the board.
Thank you.
Yes. What do you see as strengths of the Sunnyvale School District, and what do you see as the areas most in need of improvement in Trinidad?
Okay, I'll try and split it half and half. So, strengths of the district. So obviously, I'm a fan of the district, right? Both my kids are here, they've been here, they're in San Miguel Juntos, as you know, and they will be here through many more years to come. I really like how the district has tried to look at the different areas of the community and give people different options. You know, I think the programs of choice, obviously particularly the Juntos program and Fairwood program have been successful. It's been interesting listening to all of you talk about what has made a program of choice school successful and how we can build on that to continue success at our other schools. We have amazing teachers. You know, obviously I'm most familiar with San Miguel, but I have heard very few, if any, bad things about teachers in our district. Our teachers are passionate, they work really hard, they do everything they can, and that echoes as well to, you know, staff at the schools, to principals and principals. I've just been amazed with everyone. I like the collaboration. You know, it's not just San Miguel on its own or Fairwood on its own. There's a lot of cross conversations both within parents and community members, but even at you guys, I hear you often taking, you know, well, this worked at this school, how can we leverage and where do we think? And so I know that the schools do operate very independently, but I see a lot of great lessons and learnings. And it's clear that everyone is very passionate. You know, everyone here is looking for how do we make our schools better? How do we make our students successful? You've got the strategic plan, which I love. I think it highlights 4 wonderful places to go. It gives a great outline of where do you go and how you prioritize your work moving forward. And it's clear that, you know, district staff at all levels and all the way down through schools really have our kids' hearts at interest. Things that I think are in need of improvement. So I think, well, obviously you shouldn't have any artificial turf anywhere, so I'll just get that one out of the way. You know that I've advocated a lot for additional after-school activities. I do think that's true. It is hard to be a family with 2 working parents and send our kids to public school. And I think that we can do more after-school enrichment so the kids learn not just necessarily in the academic setting, but through a variety of different things that they can have. I love that those options are available at many schools for parents for, I don't know, like a sliding scale kind of thing, but I think we can do more there. The communication has really improved since I've been a parent, and I'm really impressed with the work that you guys have been doing. I think that there can continue to be more improvements. As a parent, I get lost. I have the Peach Jar things, I have the school bulletins, I have Facebook, I have the district website. There are so many ways to get information that I often forget. And so it would be good to see how can we not necessarily streamline, but make sure that all that information is accessing to parents as we go. And then I think, this is a really small one, but I would love to see the board minutes say, or board agenda say that like the closed session starts at 6 and open session will not start before 7 o'clock, so that parents don't have to get here at like 6:30 in case the closed session ends early. I'll stop there.
Thank you.
All right, this will be a 3-minute question. On average, the board meets twice a month. There is reading and preparation before the meeting. Additionally, there are weekly updates and email correspondence. You are committing to additional training and board development to become a more effective trustee. We know you are active in the community. What challenges do you anticipate, if any, in meeting these expectations?
Yes, so basically the reason I almost didn't apply was because I wanted to make sure that I could make the commitment. I didn't want to apply to something that I couldn't fulfill. You know, I do have a full-time job, I've got 2 young kids, and I'm involved in a lot of other activities. And so I've spent the last few months thinking about where I can cut, and I have cut back. You know, it was in my application, I cut back, I stepped out of the neighborhood association work. I would step down from the Sunnyvale Sustainability Commission if I get the appointment, and I would end up reducing the PTA work, which sort of is done anyhow because of the way the schedule works, but anyhow. So I have really looked at where I can cut things back. And my husband and I have talked about this and can we do it? And so the short answer is, you know, I'm committed to this. You know, the every other week meetings, we can fit into the schedules, that will be fine, we can go there. Even my kids are excited about having time with dad. The potential challenge that I would find would probably be that, well, I can't remember what it is, but the thing in the first week of December that you all go to, and taking multiple days off work to attend that, particularly every year, would be hard. But, you know, the governance meetings that are like in the mornings, I think that's fine. I can schedule that around work. And so I really see that 1 week conference in December as being pretty much the big challenge. Emails, I read emails, that's fine. I have plenty of time to do all that stuff. So the rest of it doesn't worry me. So I will stop there.
And then a related question, please take less than a minute to respond. Given that we are setting out to hire a new superintendent, what is your flexibility to add a few additional board meetings, including one all-day interview to your schedule this spring?
So I knew that was going to be part of the job. So the short answer is I will make as many accommodations as I can. I would prefer nothing on weekends just because we tend to have plans and we're taking a couple of trips. Evenings work really well for me. In terms of during the workday, for the most part, I have flexibility to move things around and, you know, if my boss knows it's happening and say, look, I have to make this commitment for the superintendent, I heard them say bring your calendar, so I will bring my calendar, but I would say my goal is to be as flexible as possible. The schedule is busy, but especially if I know ahead of time, there's a fair amount of movement and ability to move things around.
Courtney, you'll have 3 minutes for this question. As a board member, you'll be asked to make decisions where you must put aside what's best for you, your family, and your friends to do what's best for all students in the district. What does this mean to you?
So, it means a lot. So I think, right, so I know one of the concerns in the high school when moving to trustee area elections was that people in the trustee area would only care about kids in that area. And we all know that that's not actually what happens, and same thing here. And so the first thing a board member has to remember, of course, is that, yes, I may be in this trustee area, but I'm a board member for all students in the community or the district. And I like to think that a lot of times what works best for me and my friends and my family will be similar, right? We all want similar objectives across the team, but I think it requires a balance. And so, for example, if there were something like an after-school activity program, and it turned out that the hours were great for many other families, but they weren't great for my family, if my family's in the minority, like, I will deal with that and figure something out. You know, things should not be chosen just to make it work for me, particularly because we do have a lot of resources that I know that many families in the community do not have. And so when I look at that, I will be making my decisions based mostly on what can we do and what do we need to do, not just for the kids who are from lower income families or struggling in school. We need to think about the kids who are doing well in school, and we want to make sure that we're providing things that work for both of them. In cases where that's a conflict and you have to choose one group or the other, I would rely a lot on staff input and feedback, right? They're the experts, they work here every day to figure out what to do, but I think it's always a question of how do you make the decision that is best for the most number of people. And then if you make a decision that's not good for you, you can go home and cry about it and then move on. That's my answer.
Okay, so for this question, you will also have 3 minutes. Our board consists of 5 people who work towards consensus on sometimes difficult decisions. Describe your communication style in this type of scenario. Also describe how you would respond if the majority decision was counter to your vote.
I will answer this backwards. So if the majority decision was counter to my vote, first and foremost, we're all part of a board, right? And it's okay if I disagree. And in fact, I've been in board situations where people are like, please, someone dissent, just so that we know that it doesn't always have to be unanimous. And I can go home and complain to my husband about how I think the wrong decision was made. But in public, the important thing is to say, you know, this is the board's decision. Here is the reasoning that was chosen to get there. People will know that I disagree because I didn't vote that way. And then if people have concerns, to say, you know, okay, go talk to the board president, go talk to staff, go talk to those people and voice your concerns. My job is not to just start complaining with other people. You know, I need to be professional. I need to support the board. And part of working in a group of more than one person is that you are going to find things that you disagree with, and that's just part of doing that. My communication style in this type of scenario, mentioned I like to listen. So I try to get a sense of where people are coming from. I do ask a lot of questions. I want to make sure that I understand implications of things. You know, that the data that I'm seeing and I'm interpreting it, that I'm interpreting correctly. I will try to repeat, you know, so for example, I heard, you know, Peggy, you were saying this, do I have it correctly? So I want to make sure that I actually understand what people are saying. I try to look for common ground. And also when things where there's not common ground, try and say, well, we don't have common ground in this area, so how can we maybe find a compromise that will work, and try and find compromises that will work for everyone. I spend most of my day working with people who have various different opinions, and it's all about how do we align. And sometimes that means letting people complain about the things that are not going well. Again, that comes back to listening, and that's okay. But I think it's really towards trying to make it so that if everyone isn't a winner, at least no one feels like they were completely ignored, that they were neglected, and just like that their opinions didn't count. Because everyone's opinions matter, even if your opinion doesn't end up being the majority at the end of the day.
Thank you.
So this one is for 1 minute. These terms is up in fall of 2026, and all things being equal, would you expect to run or continue your service on the board after that?
Yes. We have no plans to move. We will be here. The only reason I can think where I would not continue service is if for some reason there was some major project at work or something that came up and I said I needed to switch gears for that, but I really don't foresee that happening. So as long as I'm enjoying it and I feel like I'm making a contribution, then yes, I would expect to continue to run, I guess, to continue my service.
Last question, 2 minutes. What's a question you wish you would have been asked?
So when I interview people, I usually ask them what their hobbies are, but I figured you might want something a little bit more detailed, so I won't tell you about that. Instead, the question is, tell you about a time when I was on a team where people were not working together well and what I did about it. And so I was on a team with 2 other people, and so I guess here's my answer, I'm supposed to answer it, I assume. 2 other people who were not collaborating at all. One person was supposed to build a device, and the other person was supposed to use the device. And it wasn't working. The person who needed the device to work was not getting the device when they needed them to. I tried to be like, come talk to each other, and it just didn't work at all. I tried to help with let me figure out forecasting so I know we'll need 3 next month and I can give a heads up to the person who's building it. That didn't work either. I offered to build the boxes repeatedly, and that didn't work at all. And so I finally just sat down with the person who's building the boxes in a one-on-one meeting, and I said, basically, what's going on? And I let that person talk for 45 minutes about all the things that were going wrong and why that person was not feeling appreciated, et cetera, and so forth. I listened, asked a few clarifying questions, but I really just let them make sure that they were heard. And then at the end, I said, okay, what can I do to help make your life easier? And so we had a little bit of a conversation for there. We worked out a plan, and we were able to implement that plan, and within 3 days, I had gotten all the information to build the boxes, and the person who needed them got them, and the person who was building them was able to gradually work off the project. And so my takeaway for that was listening is super important. Again, finding common grounds, understanding where everyone is coming from, and then figuring out, okay, how do we get to a common goal that will let us all move forward?
Thank you. Thank you so much, and we will call you in a little bit back from the room. And Mr. Romero, I believe if my alphabetizing is correct, I get very nervous. I believe we're up for Ms. Perfetta. It is really high stakes, it's being recorded here. Can she alphabetize?
Because she's so good at other things.
Right, that's what I have to hang on to, because if I just mess that up, then
There was a study, and apparently most adults, they don't want to confess that every time they need to alphabetize things, they listen to the song in their
I
head.
absolutely
Oh, I
was
know.
singing in my
I
head.
do.
The song is great.
We get to 1, 2, 1, 2.
Oh, okay. Afterwards, first, and send it up to you.
Okay. Hi, welcome right here, right at the table. Thank you. So welcome, Ms. Perfetta. So here is your timer right there, front and center, and please, now it's time for you to give us your 2-minute statement, briefly stating why you are interested in serving on the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education and what skills you bring to the position.
Hi, I'm Evelyn. I have volunteered for so many years at Fairwood, Columbia, and Fremont High School. I have my 4 daughters here, and it started when Mika, my eldest, she's 21 now, and it started when she was in kinder at Fairwood, before Fairwood became an Explorer program. And at that time, when she was in elementary, the other 2, Leia and Mia, started at Fairwood. It was full Explorer, and we had to do 2 hours a week per child. And so I volunteered 6 hours a week at Fairwood. And there I helped in the classrooms. I was active with Project Cornerstone in all 3 girls' classrooms as well. I'm the president right now, so Malila, my youngest, she's at Fairwood now, and so she's in 4th grade, and so I've been active since she was there. When she started kindergarten Zoom, it was on Zoom, and so I helped Ms. Ratnaswamy with the class and helping parents and stuff. And so since then, I've been the president for Alliance for the past year. I was VP last year, and I was the president at the PTSA at Columbia Middle School for several years, and also at the Music Booster president as well. And so skills that I have, I am compassionate, I'm caring, I'm helpful, and I like to advocate for students and families. I'm very organized, I'm good with time management, and I'm a team player. Thank you.
What do you see as the strengths of the Sunnyvale district, and what do you see as the areas most in need of improvement? And this is a 3-minute.
Strengths of the Sunnyvale School District. I like how the board has their board meetings, and it looks like everyone's open-minded, and you all collaborate with your ideas and come together and make decisions or help make decisions for the district. And what do I see as the most in need of improvement? Well, right now you need one more board member. And I think as far as improvement, there's always room for improvement. And if we could, or the board members could discuss things that can be improved with the school, with all schools, and the whole entire district, and have community, events to have the families come together. I think that would be a good improvement. What else? Sorry, I'm trying to blank. Other strengths. I think that the board going to school events and gathering, listening to parents and families to see what the district needs or what their school needs, and then coming together and talking to each other about it, and finding out what we can do, or what you can do to provide for the parents and families, and how to have positive outcomes for the concerns that they have. I think that's a strength that you have.
You don't have to feel it.
I don't have to fill it with 3 minutes.
No, you don't have to.
Oh,
You don't have
It's
to.
okay. Don't worry.
Don't worry.
thank you.
Sure.
All right, so this one you'll have up to 3 minutes. On average, the board meets twice a month. There is reading and preparation before the meeting. Additionally, there are weekly updates and email correspondence. You are committing to additional training and board development to become a more effective trustee. We know you are active in the community. What challenges do you anticipate, if any, in meeting these expectations?
First of all, before I applied, I asked my boss if I could take off early because I work in Pleasanton on Thursdays, and your meetings are at 6 p.m. And we've made arrangements where I could leave early, and I am the only provider there. So for him to tell me that I could leave early and even, be able to pick up my child from KLAS to make it here at 6 o'clock, that was a big challenge for me to figure out if I should apply. And so when he said yes, that I could, so I figured I would apply. And so here I am at the interview. And I know that you had mentioned that before the board meeting on Thursdays, you get a packet of the agenda and we would go over it. And so I am confident that I could make time because that is something that I need to do to help the board and to help myself to understand what's going on with the issues that's going to be at the board meeting.
And a related question, and please take less than 1 minute to respond. Given that we are setting out to hire a new superintendent, what is your flexibility to add a few additional board meetings, including one all-day interview to your schedule this spring?
Although I'm very busy, I would make it a point to make it to the board meetings. In the application packet, I did say though that I can't come to that governance meeting in May because that's my daughter's Diggins Day overnight field trip, and I wouldn't miss it for the world because when she was an infant, Leia went on the Diggins Day and my husband went to the overnight field trip and I couldn't because I had a newborn. So I would love to go to her because that means a lot to me and I know it means a lot to her. So those are the 2 days that I know I cannot make it to your board meeting. And hopefully you guys could give some consideration, but if not, I totally understand. But I am flexible and I am willing to make the time to be at your board meetings, your extra ones in the spring or before the spring.
Thank you.
Hello, this is a 3-minute question. As a board member, you'll be asked to make decisions where you must put aside what's best for you, your family, and your friends to do what's best for all students in the district. What does this mean to you?
So again, going back to being open-minded, and I know that not always you don't get what you get and you don't make a fit. And so I understand that what's best for all students, and if we all collaborate with each other, one person might not feel the same as the rest of the group, but we should, learn to just go with it and make sure that we do what's best for all the students.
Thank you. So this next question is also up to 3 minutes. Our board consists of 5 people who work towards consensus on sometimes difficult decisions. Describe your communication style in this type of scenario. Also describe how you would respond if the majority decision was counter to your vote.
So it kind of goes back to what I just said about if 5 of us was coming to a consensus, but one of us, maybe I didn't like your decision, I would still go with what you all choose and go with that because that's probably the best thing. Maybe I didn't know it at that time, but it is the best thing, and I wouldn't hold a grudge or be upset. I would just work with the board and do the best that I can.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a 1 minute question. This term ends up in fall of 2026. All things being equal, would you expect to run or continue your service on the board?
I'd love to say that I would love to run, but I'd like to see what I'm stepping into also. But I do have, I follow through, so I'm sure that if I love it, that I would run for that election with the support of my family. They're always very supportive.
Last question for up to 2 minutes. What's a question you wish you would have been asked?
The question that I wish I would be asked, is, would you like to accept this position? But let's see here. Okay, so I have my notes here. So what I would have wanted to be asked is what idea or event you would like to see happen in the district. That's you guys asking me. I would like to see the whole school district get together for some kind of event, maybe like an annual carnival or something hosted, each school having host the event every year, like every school host it every year. And then, but not the school just hosting it, but then the whole entire district help planning and getting it together. And that way families can come together, people who have friends go, and then make new friends as well. And I think that would bring our community and to bring our community together and have a stronger relationship with each other. And I think that would be important to, so we all, meet each other and not just say, oh, that person goes to Cherry Chase or that one goes to Fairwood. I think it would be nice if everyone just got together and not, and just make friends and have fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I think that's all of our questions for now. And if you don't mind going back to the McKinley room, we're going to interview the last candidate, and then after that, we'll call you all back in. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Please. Please, here, please.
It was all ready, didn't it?
I know, I forgot. Like, oh my gosh. This paper is for us to write our top two, not in any order, and then we'll pass it over to Mike and he'll let us know how we did. Later. Welcome, please have a seat. Thank you. Welcome. Hi. So your timer will be right up there. And now it's time for to please give us your 2-minute statement, briefly stating why you are interested in serving on the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education and what skills you bring to the position.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I would like to start saying that I appreciate the beauty of the diversity that our community has, and that's one of the things that I would like to continue to add to the board. As being a bilingual Brazilian American immigrant and an educator, I have experienced firsthand the power of education shaping opportunities for students from diverse backgrounds. So my passion lies in advocating for all children, regardless of their background and language and socioeconomic status, to have access to high quality education that prepares them for success. And I believe that my multicultural perspective, experience in early childhood education, and deep understanding of immigrant experience will bring valuable insights to the board. I'm particularly motivated to address educational equity, inclusion, and the importance of early learning interventions, ensuring that no child falls behind due to systemic barriers. I'll continue to bring advocacy for families and students, expertise in early childhood education, and continue with the cultural and inclusion, and recognize the importance of multilingual and multicultural education. And I will work to support English learners, bilingual education programs, and culturally responsive teaching practice to meet the needs of all students. But in all, I'm here for all of our students and everyone and all of their families.
Thank you. Isabel?
Yes, what do you see as the strengths of the Sunnyvale School District, and what do you see as the areas most needed of improvement? And you have 2 minutes, sorry.
Oh, sorry, 2 minutes, sorry.
3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes? 3, okay, sorry, I didn't hear.
So the question was what areas I see.
What are the strengths of the Sunnyvale School District, and what do you see as the areas of most need of improvement?
And the other questions are also right there.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I believe that our Sunnyvale district brings one of the strengths is the diversity. I find it beautiful that we're able to include different celebrations of different diversities, of different cultural diversity into our curriculum. I find that beautiful, and particularly I can say for Fairwood, and beautiful as well as in at San Miguel with the Juntos program, the bilingualism there exists. And I believe if there is an area that needs improvement, it could be, it's a very good question. It could be maybe the way we communicate with our parents, with our families, the relationship and understanding what your child does at school and what the school is and what the school brings. I think that could be improved here and there, because as a parent I've already experienced a little bit of it. So that's why it's something that for me could have been improved.
We'll have 3 minutes for this question. On average, the board meets twice a month. There is reading and preparation before the meeting. Additionally, there are weekly updates and email correspondence. You are committing to additional training and board development to become a more effective trustee. We know you are active in the community. What challenges do you anticipate, if any, in meeting these expectations?
Yeah, that has been a subject I've been talking to my family about as a stay-home parent, and I just went back to school to finish my associate degree in early childhood education, and I have my family first of all gives me full support in pursuing this position, and I've already, and if it were the case that I were to commit to this, my life has been, we have adjusted every piece of it to be able to, for me to create space for me to be able to be available. So I don't see any problem or any difficulty preparing for this new role and a new journey.
Thank you. And then a related question, and please take less than a minute to respond. Given that we are setting out to hire a new superintendent, what is your flexibility to add a few additional board meetings, including one all-day interview to your schedule this spring?
Like I mentioned before, I'm very flexible. There is a lot of support in my family, and also my teachers at school are also very flexible. They understand that I'm also a mom, and I also have to attend to my kids. We do have babysitters that are available for me in case available for us in case we need anything. And I'm a type of person that when something needs to be done, I will make sure that whatever is around me will work towards it, and taking one step at a time for things to work. So I think I would be able to have flexibility in my schedule to be part of this one all-day interview.
Hello. You'll have up to 3 minutes for this question. As a board member, you'll be asked to make decisions where you must put aside what's best for you, your family, and your friends to do what's best for all students in the district. What does this mean to you?
I think that's a very good question, first of all. But I believe that we are all here to support everyone, not just, it's not for myself, it's for everyone, it's for every family. And we're advocating for the benefit to support a community. So, and we are making decisions as a group, as a community, as a board. So it's not, of course, it's not easy, but I feel it's an understandable path to take for this, to make decisions that to benefit the whole community at large. So I think it's a given. It comes with the role, it comes with the job. So yeah, I think it'll be fine.
Thank you. Okay, so as a board, our board consists of 5 people who work towards consensus on sometimes difficult decisions. Describe your communication style in this type of scenario. Also describe how you would respond if the majority decision was counter to your vote.
That's also a very good question. The way I communicate, I like to hear everybody's perspectives, because when I hear people's perspectives, it helps me broaden my thinking. So I don't like to go first on anything, actually. I like to hear people's ideas, people's perspectives. So, and that's how I communicate. And, you know, even in my home, things don't go my way, and that's okay, and that's fine, it's part of life. And, but I do like to understand the reason, I like to understand the why you think about things, the why things are the way they are. And that's one of the reasons why I'm also here, because I like to understand why things happen the way they happen. So I think I'll be fine if I understand the reason behind it.
Thank you.
And please answer this question in a minute or less. These terms is up in fall of 2026, and all things being equal, will you expect to run or continue your service on the board?
Yeah, yes, I remember this was one of the questions I also asked during the info session. I believe that this would be a long-term role that I would like to take, especially because I have kids in the district.
Okay, this is the last question. What's a question you wished you would have been asked?
I prepared 2 questions for that. Oh, sorry.
2 minutes, so I'm just
2 minutes.
We're signaling this.
Because I was about to say that I prepared 2 questions, and then one of them I kind of mentioned before, you asked me a little bit, but I brought this because I forget about everything. Yes. The question would be, how can we ensure that parents are well informed about their children's standardized testing, including its purpose, format, and impact in their academic progress? Standardized testing is something very important to me, I care about, and I believe that we're actually doing a very good job. I think the district is doing actually a very good job in informing parents. I know Fairwood is doing a very good job. Columbia is also, Mr. Polo is also, he's about to do a workshop about the NWEA test, a info session about it with parents. But I believe this is an area that has room for improvement. Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Well, so I need to look at my script. I think what happens is, now I'm gonna ask the board, do we wanna take a 5-minute break before we come back in and talk to people, or are you ready to go for the rest of we're okay. Okay, so well, we just need to bring all the other applicants back in.
Yeah,
Is that
so.
right? Yeah, and then you can sit wherever you'd like in the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We're doing this part right now, right?
No, we're gonna talk first, but I can give you the paper now.
I made lots.
Okay, all right. Just in case.
You might need to do it again.
Yeah, we might.
I messed up, Bridget.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify, is the counting okay? Or like-
We need to put them without any.
First we're gonna talk.
Okay.
So, and then we don't have to put them in order, like 1, 2, it's just your top 2. It'll be after we have a discussion.
Okay.
She has a little script.
You're leading the
I have a script,
Okay.
yeah, I have a
So
script.
we're waiting till they come back, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry, yes. When they're back in, we can.
Because it's really open, it's an open part of the meeting.
We could just have a 7 minute right? We could just have a 7 minute
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, seeing everybody back, thank you so much. So I do want to thank all the applicants for their responses to the board's questions. Before we decide whether or not we need a second round of questions, I'd like to provide an opportunity for my fellow board members to identify what they're looking for in an applicant to fill the vacancy. And then we'll poll for our top 2 candidates to fill the criteria. So this will allow us to begin to narrow down the field as we move towards a decision. If there appears to be a consensus around an applicant, we may entertain a motion to appoint, but if not, we'll ask that the applicants identified, which may be a clear top 2 or maybe like a 3-3-2 split, by any of the board members to participate in a second round of interviews. But as I was speaking with Dr. Gallagher before the meeting, the effort here is to try to move it towards 2, to try if we can. Okay, so would anyone like to begin discussion about what you're looking for in an applicant to fill the vacancy? We could just start with Isabel and move down, and then we can have a conversation too.
I wanted to go later.
Sure.
So when you had asked that question earlier, I was like, good question now, so I was writing down some of the things, this is before the interviews I was kind of thinking about. So the 4 that I wrote down of what I'm looking for in an applicant is someone who's open and willing to learn, someone who represents the trustee area, someone who brings diversity to our board, and someone who strongly values equity and anti-racism work. So those were the 4 that I put.
What was number 3 again? Sorry.
Someone who brings diversity to our board.
Oh, sorry, okay.
So open and willing to learn, represents the trustee area, brings diversity to our board, and then strongly values equity and anti-racism work. So those were kind of the 4, and I think it's tricky because some, all 4 of them have those things, right? I think some have some of those better than others, but I think that's one of the things that I love is that any of the 4 of you would be great on our board, right? It would be a great thing. It makes it harder for us to make the choice, but I'm grateful that we have such a great pool of candidates to pull from.
Yeah, I did make my little voting thing, and yeah, I was actually writing for myself that the diversity represents the community, is willing to learn pretty much, which is, between, what already know or is a clean slate with both of them in both ways. It's really to commit and to learn.
I'm interested in somebody who can be a partner and collaborator, somebody who can communicate well and is thoughtful, and somebody who represents the community, specifically a Title I school, such as Bishop, but not Bishop.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Wrong trustee area.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, I'm so excited about all the people who applied because I sort of felt like, well, if anybody, and if any of you were running for board, I'd be honored to serve with any and all of you, right? So for me, I feel like there is a level of service that I'm interested in the community. So I think that there are a couple of candidates who even all the answers were good, right? All of the conversation was good. All the responses were for me, in my evaluation, were oh, this is great. Let's work together. But I think there were a couple of candidates who had a depth of service to the district already that really impressed me. And so I think that kind of long-term commitment and service within their community, for me that weighs in because other people could be getting there, they just haven't done that yet, right? So I am interested in people who have that kind of, and what I really like about when I was looking at it, what I realized was important to me was the candidates who have some experience across multiple schools. So they all have some sort of experience across multiple schools, but I think just that kind of cross-pollination of ideas and experiences of what happens as for example, as they age up through the system, or if they're going school to school, or so I think for me that the cross-school conversations or cross-district conversations, that's important for me as a lens, right? So I think in a couple of the board members that might be a little bit stronger right now than like on the, as far as their service so far, right? I do wanna say that I loved reading all the letters of recommendation because it was like the, you know, when I was teaching second and third grade, my very favorite part was writing report cards because you write like, you're writing like, you get into the data, but you're writing like, you're looking at growth and you're like, oh my gosh, they've grown so much. And you know, you're communicating to the parents, like all these like things that you're seeing develop and grow. So I loved reading the reference letters because they just are, they're just like a tribute to like all the development, all the service that's happened so far. And so I think that's important to me is like those community connections and cross-cultural, cross-district perspective. Anyone else want to add anything or?
Talking broadly?
Broadly or more specifically or?
I just want to recognize how difficult this process is and really commend all of you for stepping up and as Trustee Watson was saying, like reading the applications is really kind of giving me a whole picture sense of who this person is and then furthering that with these interviews. So thank you for applying, just everybody, and thank you for service to our community. It means so much.
Yeah, and as you say, it would be great if we have 7, but.
Yeah, why can't we just have 7 and then you know, it's a little easier then. Or 9, yeah, 9 sounds good. Yeah. So
Next superintendent would love 9.
Bigger table. You know, also I really appreciated like in the conversation the community connections, you know, like the discussion about like connecting back to the students. I heard a lot of that, so I'm just really happy about the candidate pool in general. I did want to say I'm wondering how much my one question was I'm wondering how much flexibility we have with the because I think the new board member, I would really want them to be at the governance development meetings, right? And so we have one candidate who mentioned they're just not available for that. So I don't know if we're talking about a lot of other meetings with superintendent and on board, like there's a lot going on in the spring anyway. We were talking about adding a couple extra meetings. That is like my only wondering is if like that is flexible for moving the later governance team meeting, not the one that's in March.
Yeah, I don't have a vote, obviously,
Yeah.
but it seems like we set that schedule based on the schedules of the people here. And I think we need to be accommodating to whoever's joins the board.
Excellent.
So I think we can be flexible and also the context of around that same time period might also be when we're doing interviews for superintendent.
Yeah.
And so if we want that 2-day training to be with the new superintendent, maybe we'd be pushing that back a few weeks anyways or something, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and it's important that that meeting will be also to share with the new board member, with the new two board members, so we should be flexible and adjust.
I just want to be clear about that. Yeah. Okay, anything further before we write the names on the paper?
Just something that I want to mention is just the knowledge of the school district across the district, not just the school at where the kids attend, you know. And I think that's really important to be able to see the district in that with that wider lens and to have understanding of like the strategic plan, our promise, of the LCAP, what that means. It's already been it's been a challenging onboarding just for me as a new board member. And I feel like very intimately connected in education in general. And so I feel like we want somebody that has some base knowledge, that has been parts of these conversations that have been in partnerships with the district already. I feel like that would be, that would serve us well, especially now that we're moving into like the superintendent, hiring a new superintendent. There's just a lot, and having new board members, can be challenging, but also having people, some of the candidates were more, I think, ready to go than others, just in terms of background knowledge. That was my sense.
Bridget, can I share it?
Yes, please.
So I'm gonna like agree with you, but then also push back on it too. So I don't disagree with anything that you said, like that all is true and would be helpful, and there's 2 board members, right? So I don't, like, yes, that is all true. But I'm just gonna push back that like, there's pros and cons, lots of things. So yes, there are lots of pros, like what you just said to that. But I also just, and I hate that I'm like, not looking at you, but like, it's tricky when we're looking at this, but I just hate this, right? Like, I'm like, I come back here and then I'm not by the microphone. So I'm not meaning to like, bluff you. It's just funny.
That's how it is.
Yeah. My last train of thought. Oh, what I would say is, I think, right, so when I came on, right, like, I think also like Bridget said earlier, right, someone who was connected to a lot of stuff, like, I wasn't connected to a lot of stuff, right? I mean, I guess, like, in the sense that I grew up here, so I got to other schools. I had only been at Ellis, my kids were only at Ellis. I only had done things there, right? So I came into this position not aware of district. I mean, granted, I have, my spouse works in the government position, so I think I had that piece, right? But I don't want to limit us, but while that is definitely a pro, I also want to be mindful, like, I don't think we have to have that. I feel like someone else is a good fit. It's just kind of, so, yeah.
So, are we ready to write down our top 2? Remember, they're not in order. We're just writing a couple names. I really am having a difficult time. Just for the record.
It's the same. And it's supposed to be one.
Well, it's going on
Mike is
my-
opening
Yeah.
We have to put our names on this?
No.
Yes,
We
you do.
do actually. We actually do. It actually is a public record, so.
Okay, that's okay.
That was yours. But then you're just gonna tally and just say the top 2 are, right, Mike?
Yes.
Or if there's a 3-3-2.
Yeah. I'll just make a random comment while you're doing that.
Random
Instead of Jeremy doing the Jeopardy music. No, I'm saying instead of your Jeopardy music, I'm gonna make a comment.
Oh, I thought he was gonna hum. Oh, no humming.
Well-
Don't make Jeremy do that.
After my comment, we'll have a comment.
No need.
For those who
No
aren't
pressure.
familiar, when we have a pause for different things, the joke is like Jeremy will start the Jeopardy music. But what I just was gonna say is for those of you who aren't aware, I did a similar thing, right? So there was an opening on the board, someone had moved out of the district. And so Mike, in between one of the 2, Mike had kind of said like, oh, is this bringing back memories or whatever? And so on the next break, what I just shared was like, it's a very different experience, right? So I think what I said was when I was in that position that you guys are in, that was a much scarier experience. But then as a board member, it is a much more awkward experience. It hasn't gotten awkward yet, but when we get into the actual discussing who, I remember sitting there and like I was done with all my talking, so I wasn't, nervous, anxious of if I was gonna get picked or not, but I was no longer like my job was done and I just had to watch the board have these really awkward conversations. So anyway, that was my thought. That was the comment I made earlier was that's the scarier job. This is the more awkward in this specific, appointing somebody.
Okay, so, board, we have 8 votes, right? So, we don't know whose was like a top or a second, but we have, 4 votes for Evelyn Perfetta. We have 2 votes for Camila Santos and 2 votes for Courtney Jensen. So, that is
That is a tricky.
That is a tricky place because, because we don't have a 1 and 2. So the option is do you want to have those remaining 3 answer the 2 questions and then discuss again? Do you want to discuss more, or do you want to entertain a motion?
I think 4 and 2 is very definitive. We have
So you're leaning towards just going the route of a motion.
Well, you can make the motion and see if there's a second.
Okay, I make a motion to vote for Evelyn Profeta as a new trustee.
I'll second.
Okay, so then we can
Have a
discuss.
discussion about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, we're gonna discuss who would like to open. Who would like to open?
Your motion. It's tricky because again, I like the 4 of them, but I just had to choose 2, yeah.
I was expecting us to get to 2, so I wasn't like ready to make a decision right now. So part of me is a little bit like, oh wait, like I thought we would hear from more people and hear more stuff. But right there, clearly all 4 of us put her as one of our top 2. So I would be okay just moving forward with that. Right, my brain's just like wrapping up. I was just expecting more discussion. But I think at this point, I'm not sure, I think I'd be okay moving forward with that.
You're not sure? Or you're sure?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay.
If I would be ready to just vote on that right now without
Okay, discussion. Okay.
more like.
I'd like to, can we have the round 2 questions, or is it an option?
We could absolutely invite them back for the round 2 questions. I don't know if then just the motion just stick around through the conversation, because
I guess so.
We can, if we decide that, we just pull the motion.
You just withdraw the motion.
Yeah, withdraw
So if we decide we want to do that, she would just draw the motion.
I think maybe, I don't know if this helps or makes it worse. But like my wondering is, I wonder if everyone, and this is so awkward because you're all there and we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But I wonder if
But
everyone.
we've established that they're all wonderful.
They're all wonderful. I wonder if everyone put Evelyn first, if everyone put Evelyn second, or if it was split. Right, if everyone put Evelyn first, that would be the
Then that is
answer.
the clear,
So
yeah.
I don't
That is
know if
the-
that helps or makes it worse.
So I can if you feel free, I'm ready. I'd like to say something when you're ready.
Okay.
We're just chatting.
So I definitely put Evelyn first for me because of her long-term service in the community and working across districts. It was extremely difficult for me because I had, and actually like my other candidate who I also really love, and but Evelyn, because she's so many years in the district and also like across multiple schools, and she's someone who's like always extended herself from day one. Like, she was volunteering at that school when it was a Title I school before it was Fairwood Explorer. She volunteered in a program where, if I remember correctly, the PTO covered things that the Fairwood Alliance didn't. The Fairwood Alliance, when it started, was kind of like strong-armed into doing things for the whole school. And the PTO was very much all about being for the whole school. And, part of me is a little biased because I had one of her kids in my classroom, and she made me curtains for my thing. But aside from that, like when I really think about it, just because she has that like depth and breadth, and we got, so I was not a band mom personally, but I have talked to I'm a volleyball mom, and I've gone to so many things. And like the band moms were my people on the volleyball team, like the band moms in the volleyball, because the amount of time and energy that you put into to that, and just supporting the kids, what do you need? What can we do? How can we support the teacher? What can we do to make it happen? And I just think that from my memory of working with her a while ago now, she was just a person who was extremely would go about things very quietly, but would like bring people together, you know, and I love it that she would represent a underrepresented group, right? Like in that area, like in the neighborhood and in from Fairwood. So I think she has a lot to say and a lot to offer. Now, granted, I really believe that other people have a lot to say and a lot to offer as well. My concern was a little bit about the schedule, honestly, and I think onboarding her, I think we'll have to support her in having her own voice and like feeling much more confident to speak in the room at the mic. But I feel like she can do it because she can run the PTA meetings at CMS, Fairwood, and anywhere and manage the large groups of students and adults. I think she could do the job. So I really feel like it's not just, oh, she's put in the time. I feel like she's very representative of the community for a long time. And it's not that other people are not. I also really appreciate Courtney's service on the community association. I loved Camilla's, passionate about serving students and like English learners. I so want to hear more from that. And Giselle, like running for this as a community college student, and like just your passion for like giving back, I think is just phenomenal. So like that's what I feel. So I would be comfortable voting for Evelyn, but if you want to go to a second round, if you feel like another round of questions will help you make a decision, or if you really want to like advocate for someone else, I am absolutely comfortable with that conversation. So I've just said a lot, sorry.
I would like to advocate for Courtney. The questions made a big difference for me, the way that I was imagining like each of you on here, like in partnership. And Courtney is very articulate. She has a wide breadth of knowledge. I really think the Title I school currently in the San Miguel, that is important to me as a representative bishop. And I know Eileen, as representing Lakewood, having students there, that is a big deal for me. And we do have Fairwood representation, right? Having taught there, kids going through. And it is a very different student experience. And I think if we're really equity-minded, student-centered, that's who I want to see. And I also recognize that, yes, I also want diversity on the board, and Courtney's a white woman, right? I mean, that's not more diversity here, but I do think that she's uniquely qualified at this point. So that's why I'd like to go to a second round of questions.
Yeah, okay. But isn't CMS a Title I school?
It essentially is. It isn't technically, but it's just as Title I is.
Yeah.
Or more than universities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not opposed. I'm just
like
sure.
the elementary experience is very
and
very
Honduras,
different.
yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean the population and the opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can see your point, but I remember a little bit, although she didn't have kids on the same slate as I had, Evelyn, that I think she was what we used to call the founder mothers, like was kind of a funny name, of Fairwood Explorer. And I remember her to be a very hardworking person, which I admire a lot, and still having time for equity in the community. And she was there talking about the non-explorer kids. They were taught, like somehow dismissing the neighborhood kids. And she was an advocate for them, and I admire that since then. And I felt, even though we never were, because her kids were older or younger, we never were friends or share activities. The few times I remember having a conversation, maybe once or twice, a short conversation, and I remember the name. I felt that she was that advocate, and it wasn't like, oh, she's my friend and I remember her dearly. No, I just remember the name because it's a unique name, and I remember her role and her work, the things that she did, and I used to admire that a lot and appreciate that. And I do feel that doesn't matter what we do, Courtney is gonna be here helping us and doing a lot of things. And she's gonna be an asset to the community, even if she's not here at the board. She's already doing tons of things for the neighborhood. And she's gonna keep doing it.
Sure. So I think, while I appreciated what Peggy said, right, that space of, right, because there's lots of ways you can like say diversity and representation, right? And so like that example of like someone from San Miguel, I was like, oh, that would be your reason, right? So I appreciate that reminder, right, that there will be a little bit higher on Fairwood representation going this route. But I do think after hearing everyone's comments, I don't think a round two would change my opinion. I think I'm ready to vote for Evelyn.
So so I think that's three. I think the majority of the board would like to vote, so we're gonna take a vote. Okay.
Can I
Go
just
ahead.
mention something?
Sure, yeah.
How awkward would it be right now if I said no, like I wasn't going to vote for Evelyn, because would be also very thrilled to be working with you. And that just, but I don't want to.
Welcome to our world.
I know, that's like, this is like one of your questions, right? This is one of your questions.
Yeah. What is the question that?
Yeah. If the majority doesn't believe, then,
If you need to vote
yes.
again,
Yes.
that's okay.
And I want to say that.
So let's turn your number two.
Yes, yeah. I want to say that, in the interest of knowing why I'm going to vote yes for Evelyn as well. So may I make the motion?
I think the motion's already made.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so we're ready to vote. So all those in favor of appointing Evelyn Perfetta as our new trustee, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's unanimous. Welcome to the board. So I wanted to say, thank you to everyone for participating, and it was like so great to meet some of you and learn more from all of you, and I wish we could have a larger board right now. But I can't wait to see what you're gonna do next. So we're gonna move on, we're gonna
Can I add just one?
Yes,
I want to
please.
add two, I think, just right, so yeah, I mean, we all said it, we think any of you could serve with us, and we would have been super happy. So I just hope the three of you who didn't get it, right, but like, there could be opportunities to be on the board later, there are opportunities to serve in other ways, and so like, I know like, you didn't get it, so it feels like you didn't win, I mean, I hate that term, but like, we value you and appreciate all three of you, and like, it's like, what Bridget said, kind of deposits each of you, like, we could like make a person with different things the four of you brought, that would be like literally the perfect board member, like better than any of us. So I think, like, just thank you so much, and we really do value and appreciate what you've done, and hopefully this will like get you even more engaged in our district and in the community, generally too, so thank you.
I'd like to mention that there is a Sunnyvale Education Foundation position open for a Fairwood representative at this point, and I would welcome new leadership coming in there. And that's been a great way to serve the community and the school district.
So, again, I'd like to congratulate our new board member, and thank all the applicants for speaking with us tonight. We're gonna administer the oath of office tonight on advice of our lawyer, but again, we can do a ceremonial swearing in with like your friends and family. If you wanna like invite people, we can do it at the 30-day mark, we could do it at another board meeting. We can work out a time with you for a ceremonial oath of office, but like just so that we can communicate with you and you're a fully appointed board member, we're gonna swear you in tonight. That's okay. Just like to get that done, and then we can take a look at your family's here. We'll definitely give you like a picture-worthy board meeting moment in the future. And I do also, before we do that, I do also want to say that like one of our other questions that we had for the future board members was, what can we do to support you? Like, what will you need from us to support you? And I really want you to know that like we're here for you, and we're ready to make you part of the team. Okay, so with that, we are gonna move on to the next agenda item, which is our superintendent, Dr. Gallagher, is gonna administer the oath of office to our new trustee.
Yeah, I think so. You agree, you're right from work, okay? So I'm gonna read this and I've never done this before. See how we do it, okay? So, I, Evelyn Profeta,
I, Evelyn Profeta,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution
Right
of the
hand should be
State
up
of
right now.
California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to you. Should they all, okay, work together first, stay up, and there's a lot of pictures.
And then family.
Or should we wait, like, I mean.
We can do it now.
We can do it now.
We'll do both.
And then when
We'll
she,
do it. It's a moment. Yeah, and you know, Evelyn, one thing is sometimes your face is gonna hurt from smiling so much because you're gonna be.
You're probably actually gonna say it more now, but.
I'm the only one who's.
Ready? One,
That's your
two, three. One more. One, two, three. What do we wanna do?
There we go.
One, two.
Thank you.
All right.
Maybe one with our family.
Let's get the family in.
Yeah.
Come on, girls.
You'll have a better.
Oh, us?
Yeah.
Everyone together? Yeah.
have
Everyone,
family photo whenever they have.
oh, sure. Right here. Or, Courtney, his phone?
Yeah, I can do it.
Oh, I can do both. Oh, thank you. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Wait, grab 1, 2. Right, 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Okay. Sitting, well, we close the meeting?
We have to close the meeting. Okay, you can find my agenda. Okay. Okay, so we're on to item 4, which is future meetings. Our next meeting will be Thursday, February 27th at 6 p.m. It'll be a regular board meeting here at the Sunnyvale School District. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned at 7:52 p.m. Thanks.
Good job, board. That was hard.
Thank you, Marisa. Thank you, Angela. Appreciate it. Gracias.
No, it is.